Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Mythic Banter. We're here to bring you guys all of the latest news in the gaming industry, and let me just start off by greeting my good friend Akalon. How you doing, bro?
Yo,
you ready for this?
Of course, bro. I am so ready. It's not the heaviest gaming week we've had, but it is a spicy one. It is.
It's got some bangers.
Yeah, the gaming industry is in full swing. You can see the year is now finally kicking off, and pretty much everyone is once again vying for that top spot of who can be the biggest scumbag this year.
And guess what? One of the first contenders for before we start, I was going to bring up the first topic, but you have something to do, and you probably forgot.
I did actually.
The poll.
Yes, I did actually.
Yeah, I knew. I was waiting for the button. No, actually, I forgot as well. I just remembered as we started recording. Beautiful. Guys, we're doing it live. This is the way it goes. It's show business, the nature of show business, bro. It is what it is.
Just ad-lib while I find it.
I mean, I guess I'll start us off with the very first funny little topic that we had.
I have it.
You have it? Okay.
Yes. I have.
Let's go.
Okay. So the question was, 6 days ago, we asked you guys over on YouTube, is Nintendo justified in their lawsuit against Palworld? Of the 261 votes, we had 3% say yes, they are justified in the lawsuit.
Let me just say, those people, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Okay, you're what's wrong with... Wait, no. I think it is safer to assume that they're trolling, because if they watch our show, I have to assume that everybody that watches our show, they're intelligent people, so they're likely trolling. Good on you, trolls. I got them. Yeah.
I think the problem with polls like this is also sometimes there's not a lot of nuance, right? That viewers can add. So it might be someone that's saying, well, technically, probably yes. They could probably make an argument that some of the assets were just sort of ripped from their game. But I guess if they were to actually go into detail, they'd provide you with a bit more of a nuanced take. I'm not saying I agree with the take, but at least there would be a lot more nuance, right?
The lawsuit is not about stolen assets. The lawsuit is about the
copyright
patent of
It's
not. It's the patent that, funnily enough, it was a patent that was filed first in Japan, and then after Palworld release, they filed that same patent in the US, and then they sued them over it.
And what is so
a little
disgusting,
bit shady, but whatever.
But what is so disgusting is the fact that Pokemon is a ripoff of, what is it, Dragon Quest or something? Someone showed
Pokemon
it.
ripped off some stuff from Dragon Quest.
So, and now they're all high and mighty.
The thing is, it's not really ripped off. It's inspired by, which is the same thing. So it's like Pokemon inspired by Dragon Quest, and then Palworld inspired by Pokemon. That's just the nature of the business. It is what it is.
You know, at least.
Look, think of it like this. You have Lords of the Fallen coming out. Lords of the Fallen was one of the first Souls-like, and I know that people are like, what do you mean? Lords of the Fallen came last year. I'm talking about the very first one, which was much, much longer ago. I don't remember exactly when
there was a earlier Lords of the Fallen?
You seriously didn't know that?
I thought this was the first one.
No. I have a full playthrough on my channel, actually, of the
How
very
old is the first
Lords
one?
of the Fallen. I don't remember, but it was pretty old.
Is it also made by CI Games?
Yes,
same company.
It was published by CI Games, but it was made by somebody different. It was
okay.
It was somebody who wait, let me just see if I can find the thing here. It was Deck 13 were the guys who made the first one. I actually got to interview them back in the day, but I don't have the dates here for some strange reason. Because I think that the release date is just going to go for the 2023 version.
Oh, yeah.
Here it is. A successor to the 2014. I thought it was 2013, but it was 2014. 2013 was in my head because that's the first time that I got to speak with someone. I think I spoke to their the creative director, maybe. That was the guy I spoke to. But there was an original Lords of the Fallen. But anyways, the point that I was going to make is when that one came out, and that was one of the, I think that was one of the first Souls-like clones, right? Because that's when it was starting to reach its peak popularity and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Miyazaki didn't come out and aha, I'm going to sue them because I make the Souls games.
Yeah.
What the fuck is this? You know what Miyazaki said? He's like, I think it's great that people are taking inspiration from our video games because it means there'll be more cool video games like this out there. That's what he did.
Yeah. I think,
no. If you're fucking Game Freak and Nintendo, you have to be like,
I think the other thing there
my
is
patents.
when you have more companies sort of borrowing this style has a better opportunity to become part of the sort of broader zeitgeist. Right. And so you will just automatically have more fans because fans of Palworld who may not buy some, like maybe there is some fan of Palworld that lives on an island somewhere and they've never heard of Nintendo. Right. But they will see the next Pokemon game if it was good and they would go, oh, this is like Palworld. I'll go play that. Right. I might give that a go.
Yeah.
So it is good and competition is good. Right. Yeah. Competition is really good. But anyways, at least 76% of our audience is based as shit because they said no, they're not justified in their lawsuit.
I mean, like
at all.
I'm telling you, the 3% that voted yes right now, they're in the comment section going like, got him. They're like, got him.
I got these guys to spend 10 minutes on my vote. This is brilliant.
On my nonsense.
And then you have 19% that adds a little bit more nuance saying justified maybe, but not cool. So they're saying maybe there could be some justification somewhere, but this isn't cool. And I would actually say I largely agree with both the no and the justified maybe crowd. Insofar as just because something might be justified doesn't mean you should do it, right? You could break off your finger in your own asshole. Doesn't mean you should, right? And that's sort of the same thing here. Nintendo is setting a precedent. Although at this point, what's the point, right? Nintendo will always set the worst precedent in gaming. Like if there is a worst idea, Nintendo is already doing it. They're already on it.
No. I don't think they always set the worst precedent, but lately they've been going on some streaks.
This was their time. They've been waiting for the unbridled greed era of gaming. They are flourishing in this moment.
So let me just say something, okay? My mind is very visually driven, and it is very it is very ready to just like draw mental pictures whenever certain concepts are introduced.
Yeah.
Breaking your finger in your asshole was something I would rather not have heard.
Bro,
the set
it
of
is
images
what it is.
my mind generated from that.
I mean, it is. I'm sort of what I'm doing is I'm setting up themes for stuff that we'll be talking about later in the podcast.
Okay,
right?
so that makes sense. So let's bring that up. We were talking about how some companies are competing to decide who is the biggest asshole this year, right? Yeah. So Wizards of the Coast is stepping up to the plate, okay, by grabbing something that everybody loves, like Baldur's Gate 3, and shitting all over it because that makes perfect sense and just like
I wouldn't even call it shitting all over it. Like this is the equivalent. What you guys are about to see here, and I will have it on the screen.
I'm scared of what's going to come out of your mouth.
No. It's the equivalent of, when you were in school, right? And you had to do a project. And then you didn't do the project because you were playing the whole time. And then the morning before class, you just quickly put some shit together. Just sort of, oh, this kind of makes sense. And just write a bunch of nonsense. That's what Wizards of the Coast did here. It's like last minute, they synced one of them. They just walked in and they were like, does any one of you have a 3D printer? And there's like one guy going, well, I have like an old one from like the first batch. And then
they're like, do you also have crayons?
Yeah.
And the guy goes like, yeah, I snack on them occasionally.
True.
It's like, no, we meant for painting the miniatures. Do you have crayons for painting these miniatures? So Wizards of the Coast came out with a set of miniatures. Now, as you guys know, I'm somewhat of a miniature enjoyer. Recently, I don't have any of my miniatures here now, but I'm somewhat of a miniature connoisseur. nowadays.
Mhm.
And when I seen how cursed these things were this morning, I was just like, this is exceptionally bad. Like, I'm looking at the picture of Will, and for starters, the mini is not properly clipped. There's something coming out of his horns, or is that just the other tip of his horns? I don't know.
It might just
looks
be the
weird.
other tip or something.
Yeah, but they look kind of like crooked and whatnot. It lacks definition.
Mhm.
It just like, it's not properly painted. It's like all gunked up and stuff. You know how we could do this in Warhammer? We'd have to like gunk it up with primer and then just
Yeah.
like splatter paint all over it, like to
Dude,
make
this
it
looks like
disgusting,
this
but-
was the first time this person ever painted a mini in their life. And they were
Yeah,
just
there's
like, well, this will work.
You should look up there's like a meme for Warhammer painting, which is like probably some kid's first ever paint job.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
It's just like the face of a space marine that's just gunked up with skin tone.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
he's got like these big eyes and it looks like he's melting. It's like,
Oh, wow.
that's the level of quality that you're getting with these minis. Like
Yeah.
Asterion has no facial features besides a couple of like scribblings in his eyeballs.
Dude, he looks like
Shadow
they just ran out of budget. Like on these faces.
Shadowheart.
Oh, that's
Shadowheart is just like one of the most cursed things
Oh.
I've seen in my whole life.
It looks like
Jesus.
right. This looks like she was doing an attack. She got a nat one, right, and she punched
Yep.
herself in the face with her mace. That's what it looks
Yep.
like.
Repeatedly, by the way. It wasn't just like
She was
she
doing a
didn't just do it once. She
multi-attack.
was like, dush, 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 just like slamming herself repeatedly in the face with her mace. And then we have Gale that looks like they put a Lego head on him for some strange reason. It's like, bro.
Actually, I
And
wanted
then-
to say this looks familiar.
Exactly. It's from the Lego movie. That's Gale from the Lego movie.
Yeah.
And then you have my, oh my God, bro. Seeing Karlach like
so
this
weird.
is just, bro, it's like Karlach was my love interest in that game, man. And then we have receding hairline Lae'zel, which I guess at least there's some representation for those of us that have receding hairlines. So I guess, I'm finally being represented in the Lae'zel miniature. That's phenomenal. I'm so happy. And then there's Withers. And yeah, there's not a whole lot to say about Withers. He got, yeah.
Doesn't
Whatever
even
the hell
look
that
like,
is.
dude.
So
The sad part is
there's even,
none of them look like the already pretty budget representation of what they would have looked like, right? Because
yeah.
these minis aren't, as you said just before we started, these minis aren't the highest quality, right? There's companies that sell minis that are way better than this. But at
you're
least
talking
they
about
look
the,
like the
the
character.
intended,
The intended,
You're talking
yeah.
about
Well,
the
you know
intended
what you
ones, the-
this is
what you're supposed to get.
yeah, this is literally what you get on dating websites. This was the picture that they used, and then these other pictures is what showed up.
Yeah. So the funny thing is, if you actually scroll down a little bit, there's somebody who has like all of them in a box because they purchased the set or whatever.
Oh, I
And
see, yeah.
Lae'zel doesn't have a head. Not Lae'zel, sorry, Shadowheart. Shadowheart doesn't have a head.
Oh yeah, I'm seeing it. Yeah. They just fell off. Yeah, well,
No, it didn't fall off. It's not even there. It's just no head.
yeah, you have to pay extra for that. That's the
Yeah,
deluxe
of course,
edition.
it's DLC. It's DLC. So,
Yeah.
so, of course, I would just like to remind people, Larian Studios had nothing to do with this. This is just usual capital, not capital. This is just usual company
Wizards of the
greed.
Coast fluff.
Yeah, Wizards of the Coast just being super greedy and being like, oh yeah, let's drive this very popular franchise into the ground and ruin a lot of the goodwill that Larian Studios has built. Like, it's just terrible.
The
but,
sad part
it is
of
what it
this is a lot of
publisher greed.
people aren't very clued into sort of like the gaming news cycles and all the rest of it, right? So there's a ton of people that might have seen this, ordered it,
and
and
it's
is now
Larian
blaming
Studios.
Larian Studios because when they think
Yeah.
of Baldur's Gate 3, they think Larian Studios. They don't even know what Wizards of the Coast really is, right? That's the sad part of this. That Larian is catching, and I don't want to be mean or anything and speculate too much, but shortly after the success of Baldur's Gate, and let's not for a second pretend like Baldur's Gate wasn't one of the most successful game launches probably in the history of gaming, it still is played by tens of thousands of people every single day. And this is by now an already pretty old game, right? So this game is hyper successful. And it's probably going to continue to be successful over the next how many years? So decades.
Listen, Baldur's Gate 3 is a game from 2023, if I remember correctly. So it's not even from last year. It's from 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And its current 24-hour peak is 83,000 users.
Dude, that's insane, right? Now, here's the thing.
Single player game, by the way.
If you're a studio head, right, you're immediately thinking Baldur's Gate 4. Like, what could go wrong? This is the perfect next step. Except that's not what Larian Studios does. Literally after the game launches, before they even know just how successful this game is ultimately going to end up being, because the success really just kept on growing, they announced that there will not, this is the last time they'll be working with Wizards of the Coast, which tells me that the development process for this game was just not something that Larian Studios ever wants to go through again. Because the logic dictates you just made the biggest game of your careers. Why wouldn't you do the follow-up? Right? There's no way Wizards of the Coast is going to be like, well, actually, no, we don't think you should do Baldur's Gate 4. Right? Because they made a ton of money on this game. And yet Sven's like, no, we'll do our own thing. Thank you very much. So yeah, I'm just appalled by this. This is truly some cursed minis. Like, genuinely some of the worst. I know it's the thumbnail. This is going to be on the thumbnail. I'm going to have to put it on the thumbnail.
Yeah, like Shadowheart's face. Yeah, that'll be fantastic.
Just Shadowheart's face and Rurikon doing this disgusting look. Oh,
there you go. There's the thumbnail.
Before we continue, I should mention just very quickly to everyone, there is a new feature, I guess, for the show. The podcast is available for about 24 hours prior for people who are members of the channel, right? So if you want to support me and Rurikon, just $5, it helps us not have to rely on sponsors, because one of the things I hate about podcasts is getting interrupted by sponsors. You're getting into the conversation then. So it helps us not have to even look for sponsors, but also you get 24 hours early. It still launches live for everyone. There's no hidden content or anything like that. I don't even think we could probably discuss this at some point, but I don't think we'll do anything like exclusive content anyways. I don't know how you feel about it, but I'm not really... maybe like a Q&A once a month. We could do something like that if you guys want. Let us know. If you are a member, let us know. Yeah, please tell us. What would you like us to do? Like for something extra for you guys. We'd love to do that. And obviously the support would be amazing from all of you. But someone who desperately needs support, even more than me and Rurikon at this point, would be Ubisoft.
Oh no,
Rurikon, I know you're a bit of a Ubisoft disaster connoisseur, right? You really get happy when Ubisoft is having a bad day. How do you feel?
I mean, I feel absolutely fantastic. I saw that apparently in their earnings call, somebody directly asked, okay, so what were the sales numbers for Assassin's Creed Shadows? And they go like, well, actually, we don't disclose actual sales numbers for, and it's like, oh, of course, because that means that game is doing absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
And then we start seeing that apparently they're like at a their profits, whatever, was lower by 20% or something. I forget exactly what were the numbers.
I'm looking for the article now.
Yeah, but it's like their profits are dropping, their stock is dropping. Assassin's Creed Shadows was obviously not as successful as it needed to be, and they're kind of like qualifying the success of Assassin's Creed Shadows by putting a bunch of stuff in front of it. So it's like, it's the most successful Ubisoft launch on PlayStation Network on Tuesdays during a full moon, and they just keep adding stuff on. It's like, oh guys, listen, if you only knew how successful I was this one time in 2015, okay, during the summer on a Tuesday night, and it was a full moon, and and before that it was during the solstice, and it's like you just keep adding qualifiers, and then eventually it's like, bro, this was the most successful thing ever. You have no idea. Nobody's ever done it like I did in 2015 during the summer, on a Tuesday, on a full moon, during the solstice. Just keep adding bullshit to it, dude.
This is sort of the thing that people have to know about earning calls. And I think a lot of people are starting to be a lot more clued in on what corporate speak actually is. Because they used to be able to get away with it, but generally speaking, you don't listen to what they say, you listen to what they show. For example, Ubisoft still has not learned their lesson. If anyone thinks this is them learning their lesson, oh no. Because Yves Guillemot said the following. The company said it was continuing its strategic focus on open-world adventures and native gas games as a service experiences.
Hells yeah, let's go. Gas it up, baby.
Yeah. And here's the full, for those of you that's interested, financial results from Ubisoft. Revenue, down 17.5% year on year. Net bookings, down 20.5%.
That's
Digital net bookings, down 20.2%. Back catalog net bookings, this is in other words, games that's already launched, then down 13.5%.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
As somebody that understands the concept of that I usually see a lot of video game publishers espousing, I'm pretty sure that those numbers are supposed to go up, right? Line go up. That's the way that it goes. Yeah. Line is supposed to go up. Why is line going down? Yeah. Line going down, not good.
No. In a perfect world, the line should at least go straight. At least you should go straight.
At least it stays in the black. Yeah.
Yeah.
But an interesting thing was I also saw that apparently the son or whatever is coming back to the company.
Yeah.
And his name is Charlie. And I'm like, wait, what? How's kid name is Charlie? How does that work? If he's French, it should be Charles, basically.
But maybe the mother is American or some shit. I don't know. I have no idea.
Anyway, I'm just making fun of the kid. It's not. I mean, I say kid considering how old Guillemot is. This dude might be older than me. I shouldn't make fun of dude's name. I think that's just wrong. I just thought it was curious.
Dude, he's connected to Guillemot. Like, I don't know if like anything good can come out of that family, because nothing good comes out of that company.
I mean, nepotism in full swing is always a good thing, right? It is what it is.
I mean, they're currently at major risk, right? So their share price has dropped off a cliff following the earning call, which tells you investors were not swayed by their bullshit, right? Because the biggest problem that Ubisoft is running into now, they've started to burn cash reserves in order to make games. Because they're no longer capable of borrowing money. No bank will give them money because they already owe like 1.4 billion euro. So that's done. So now they're burning cash reserves in order to make their games, which is never a good thing, right? Once you start burning cash reserves, investors get spooked. So the company is down in the past 6 months, 25.13%. It currently sits at 9.96 euro. It's a little bit up from yesterday, so it's kind of up, but not that much. If you look at it, even in 5 days, it's down 11%.
You know why this has happened?
Why?
It's because it took the video game industry so long to increase the prices in video games. That's what the problem was. It was inflation. Inflation caught up with them, and now they're fucked.
Indeed.
These poor guys. If only they were able to charge more so that they could give their CEOs and their executives more money rather than give them to the developers, they would have been in such a better spot right now.
But here's the crazy thing, okay? I know we're joking about this. And I actually agree with you. Inflation, I agree with them. Inflation is the problem. Budgets inflation, right? The fact that their budgets just continuously inflate is a problem. But let's just run the numbers very quickly, shall we?
The fat cats at the top gotta be paid, man. It is what it is.
But here's where I think the gaming industry is losing the plot entirely. Because every one of them is going gung-ho on the price increase. The average double or triple A game currently sells between 1 million and 2 million copies in the last few years because they keep failing at making actual video games. So let's just go. We don't actually have the sales numbers because no one will release it. But let's just go on like the wildest guess, right? They say that Assassin's Creed Shadows had about 3 million players.
3 million activations or something.
Yeah. Like players. Okay, so they're 3 million players.
Engagement.
Let's say 1.5 million of those actually purchased the game. Now,
shit, let's tell you what, let's say all 3 million of them bought the game.
Okay, yeah, let's do all 3 million. Okay, at all
let's
3
just say
million.
It was 3 million sales.
They'd say they increased the price to $70, which they've already done, right? That leaves them at 210 million. Is that correct? Yeah, 210 million that they made entirely for the game. That's not enough. The game cost about between 250 and 400 million to make, so they're still in the range. So let's increase it to $80. Right? Let's say they charge $80 for it. That's $240 million. That's still not covering the game cost, right?
The thing is, $240 million if you rake in 100% of the revenue.
Yeah. I'm being generous, right? Let's just say they get 100% of the revenue.
They get 100%. They just get it.
Yeah, like Steam just goes, we don't need to make money. We're feeling sorry for you guys. Take all of it, right?
PSN also, they're super chill about it. Yeah, bro, it's like, just take our cut. Yeah. No problem. Yeah. Xbox, Phil Spencer.
Let's say they go to $100.
100%.
$100 gives them 300 mil.
$300
on the game sale. They're still not profitable. So just increasing the price at current budgetary rates, the price would have to go to $150, right? Just to become profitable. Yeah. At $150.
Do we know the budget?
Well, yeah, we know that the budget is between 250 and about 400 mil. We know that it's between those numbers, right?
I know of another game that's rumored to have cost 400 million.
Yeah.
That didn't work out that well for them.
No, it didn't work out that well at all, right? So you're fundamentally at a place now where even at $150, you're now making 450 mil. So congratulations, you've just made 50 million profit. But that's not how gaming companies work. For a game to be considered quote unquote successful, it has to make at least 3 times what it ended up costing. So we're starting to run towards $300 per game just for the game to make 3 times what it actually ended up costing.
But Accolon, inflation.
Yeah, well, the issue is it's bonkers to think that you can increase your prices out of this problem. Because as the price increase, all you're doing, and we actually have the data on this, Steam actually showcased this. In regions, before Steam had regional pricing, there were regions where piracy accounted for between 70 and 80% of all games played. Once regional pricing was introduced, in other words, some countries like myself, right? I live in South Africa, we get games for a lot cheaper than the rest of the world, just because of how earnings work and so on and so forth. When they introduced regional pricing, piracy went down and people started purchasing more games because suddenly they could afford to actually buy video games, right? The issue is that the higher you make this price, the more people will just move to pirate the games instead because they physically cannot afford it, right? So that 3 million number that you maybe sold doesn't even stay 3 million. It most likely goes down to like 1 million people that buy it. And now even charging $300 for a game no longer allows you to break even. You're going to have to go to $900 a game in order to make the money back, right? Because you need to make 3 times more than what you
and so on and so forth.
It's insane.
Aquilon, here's what I have to tell you, because I believe in Ubisoft. I believe in Electronic Arts. I believe in Activision Blizzard. I am eager to suck that corporate dick dry, okay? I want to cradle the balls, okay? And I will tell you, there's no other way of doing this, okay? It's just impossible. It's impossible to make a successful video game in 2025, okay? You need a big team. That's the only way of doing it. You need big budget. That's the only way of doing it. Otherwise, the graphics aren't going to look good. Otherwise, the scope of the game isn't going to be good enough. The story's not going to be. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. That's just reality, okay? What's that? Expedition 33? No, that doesn't exist.
What's that?
It doesn't exist.
No, I don't know what that is.
I've never heard of that game. No.
Like, that's not a game.
Massive teams, bloated budgets, big quadruple A visuals. This is the only way. This is the only way.
The truth is, this goes back to our conversation we had like way in the beginning of this podcast about bigger budgets, bigger teams, and how creativity can really benefit from it. When you play Clear Obscure Expedition 33, and you actually pay critical attention, you can see the budget constraints, right? You can see the areas where they physically just had to come up with a very creative way because the budget would not allow them. For example, when you fight bosses in every area, most of the mobs will be in one arena. They'll go to like a main arena that sort of fits the theme, but you won't fight the mobs in the area where you pull them, right? Yeah. And that's just a budget limit. They didn't have the budget to make every single area that a mob walks in the area that you fight it in. They just couldn't swing that. Now, this is sort of where I think the argument kind of broke down. If the team remains as creative as they are, giving the team of Clear Obscure Expedition 33 a bigger budget results in an even better game. And I think that's what you saw with Larian Studios, right? The issue with AAA is the creative people are now working at Sandfall Games because they left Ubisoft to go make Sandfall Games. And now you have these giant budgets that Ubisoft runs, but there's no one to actually make the game. There's no
creative person.
Yeah.
There's nobody there that actually will say, hey, what would be fun? It'd be fun if we did this. And whenever somebody steps out of line and says that, they're like, oh, we got to run that up the chain, like Dude said, and that takes like 10 years to get approval. And at any point in that chain, because there's a bunch of talentless hacks at the top of the company that do absolutely fuck all, they can just go like, you know what? Oh. The peanut that I was eating got lodged in my tooth the wrong way, so I think that we're not going to do that.
Yeah, no. I feel like this isn't my strong suit.
It's just like,
this wasn't my idea, so I can't really brag and use this to get a promotion. So we're just not going to do that.
Yeah, exactly. So we're just not going to do it.
I
can't steal this idea from you. So
it's sort of that thing of, oh, wait, you want to make this really cool game with this really awesome idea? Well, I don't want to do that. Instead, I'm going to pretend you said you want to make a live service game. Let's do that instead.
I mean, that's exactly what they're like. Yeah, gas it up, baby. Let's go.
Dude, it is just, I mean, at this point, they deserve it. It is just what they deserve. And here's the big, big problem for Ubisoft. If this continues, Tencent is now in a prime position to just outright buy Ubisoft. If they continue to fail, Tencent can literally just ours now.
Tencent is going like this right now.
Yep.
Like, oh, it's time? Oh, it's time? That's what they're doing.
Slowly. While Eves is watching, they're just slowly. Bet by
Eves is in the corner chair. Eves is in the corner. Sitting in the corner. While Tencent is dropping their pants. They're like, is it time? Oh boy, we've been waiting for this one.
Eves is just sitting in the corner going, I'm in trouble. I'm in danger. Oh man. But anyways, enough of us laughing at Ubisoft. I think it's going to continue because Ubisoft makes all of these promises that they think that by the end of financial year 2026, they'll finally break even. And then they'll start to make money in the next 2 years. So effectively, they'll probably start to make money by 20. The funny thing is, when you go back to last year's earning call for the same quarter, they said the same thing. They thought that they were going to break even.
And they're going to keep saying the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, they have to continue lying. If a CEO just comes out and says, it's fucked, boys. That's it. Yeah. That's the end of the company, right?
Imagine if Kojima came out and actually was honest and he's like, guys, I think we're kind of fucked.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. I wouldn't, if I was an investor, I would not invest in this company. Yeah. I would actually respect it. Like that would be, but he would be sued to high heaven. Because that would be him not being fiduciary responsible or whatever, right?
You got to be fiduciary responsible. My fiduciaries.
Yeah. And dude, we're getting a little bit into the political realm here, but I don't mind the law in theory, right? Because the reason this whole law got passed in the first place, fiduciary responsibility, was because you had CEOs that were just running around doing crap, right? And investors had no say in what these CEOs were doing and no recourse, right? So if a CEO was losing them hundreds of billions of dollars, they just sort of have to look and smile. And so the government steps in and says, no, wait, you this is not your money, right? You're working with other people's money. You have to be responsible. If you aren't responsible, they can sue you for it. The problem is that what it became is this sort of incentivization to lie and bullshit your way through, I mean, as many years as you can possibly carry, right? And screw over your customers because why not? That's a good idea. Speaking of scumbag companies, let's talk about one of your other favorite companies, Bungie.
Man, it's just one hell of a show today.
Yeah, this is Rurikon's favorite show. Like, he might have had a bad week or not, but now he's in a good mood. You know, everyone that should be doing bad is doing poorly.
This is great.
Yeah. So, Rurikon, Bungie is a company. They're a studio that's known for integrity, honesty, high quality work, right?
Absolutely. That's what I like about them, about their honesty and their integrity and totally not taking advantage of, players or their fan base, anything like that. And that's why, we ran into an article earlier today called "Clearly My Work Was Good Enough to Pillage."
Yeah.
So apparently they're doing a little bit of a plagiarism. They're doing a plagiarism, just a little bit, not too much,
But surely,
if you do too much, it's like,
But surely this is a once-off deal, right? This is like completely out of nowhere. Like, must be an accident. No?
Yeah, this person was saying that apparently they used some of her work. I don't know it was what was the name of the person?
So the person
it was 4NT.
Yeah, it's 4.
I guess it's anti-real in leet speak. It's anti-real in leet speak.
Yeah, and, 15 hours ago, so let me just read the tweet here. 15 hours ago, this anti-real person posts, the Marathon Alpha released recently and its environments are covered with assets lifted from poster designs I made in 2017. I don't have the resources nor the energy to spare to pursue this legally, but I have lost count of the number of times a major company has deemed it easier to pay a designer to imitate or steal my work than to write me an email. In 10 years, I have never made a consistent income from this work, and I am tired of designers from huge companies mood boarding and parasiting my designs while I struggle to make a living. Just to be a little bit more, right? Dual Shockers, that wonderful journalistic outlet, then writes an article about this whole scenario. And as you can imagine, they're balanced and fair and honest about the whole thing.
I mean, with a name like DualShockers, of course they're not going to side with Bungie. Surely,
no, of course not.
Sony owned Bungie? No, I'm sure they won't do that.
But this is how scumbag DualShockers actually is. So they quote her saying, she said or wrote, "I'm completely floored." Right? And then, in quotes, "This is my full-time job. I sell these posters online. They're not obscure. A major company has deemed it easier to pay a designer to imitate or trace rather than license or commission the work." I just read you what they actually wrote. Right?
That's not what the tweet says.
That's not what the tweet says. DualShockers literally just invented a quote out of nowhere.
Headcanon.
Yeah. This is my full-time job. And Anti-Real actually writes here, "Insane fake quote, lol. I am unemployed." So they don't even really sell this stuff. They don't make any money off it. In fact, they literally say, "I have not, in the last decade, I've made no money from this."
You know what it was? It was probably AI slop.
I wouldn't be surprised.
They just got ChatGPT to wrote the article, and ChatGPT's like, "Oh yeah, you want something that's clickable? Oh, I got the story for you. I'll fix that up right now.
Yeah,
I got you. Yeah, no problem. We'll sort that out right now." Yeah. And here's the interesting thing, right? Some people might listen to us talk about this, and they might be, a Destiny fan or something like that, and they go like, "Well, these are allegations, right? These are allegations. Like, we can't really confirm this, like, whatever, right?" And so the thing is, apparently the Marathon dev team confirmed this in a statement where they said, "We immediately investigated a concern regarding unauthorized use of artist decals in Marathon and confirmed that a former Bungie artist," so they don't work there anymore.
Yeah, of course.
We don't know who this person was. We don't know who this person was. We just know that they don't work there anymore. They're gone. Okay. Included so this is just so that you know, none of our current artists working on Marathon have done anything wrong. This was someone who doesn't work here anymore. We're not going to tell you who it was.
We fired them.
Tell you anything about them.
Once we found out, we fired them.
Gone a long time ago.
Yeah.
No.
They actually never even worked here. They just came in and hacked us.
Yeah, it was a contractor. No, anyways, what they said was regarding unauthorized use of artist decals in Marathon, and confirmed that a former Bungie artist included these in a texture sheet that was ultimately used in game. This issue was unknown by our existing art team, and we are still reviewing how this oversight occurred. But as you so aptly pointed out, this is something that has only ever happened once. This just doesn't. It just doesn't happen.
There cannot be a pattern of this happening, right?
No. So in this Gamer article that I've pulled up, they might mention like a couple of more times, but I don't know how accurate it is, right? They just said, "It's also worth mentioning that Bungie has a spotty history when it comes to plagiarism accusations, as it has been deemed to have lifted designs from fans for various projects. Back in 2021, it was accused of using fan artwork for a Witch Queen expansion trailer. Again, in 2023 for a cutscene in Season of the Deep. Most recently, an Ace of Spades Nerf gun collaboration was accused of using a 9-year-old piece of fan art for its design. In the latter example, Bungie did investigate and promised to compensate the artist in question." So it's like,
I am shocked.
It's one of those things.
And appalled.
You know one of those things where it's like it's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing. Like, it's like, okay, so here's our motto at Bungie: steal, and then if we get caught, we just say that we got rid of the person, and then we'll pay something. Okay.
Yeah.
Licensing? No, we don't do that. We just steal, and then if we get caught, then we think about the licensing part.
Dude, do you have any idea how many artists would actually be thrilled to have their art in a video game, right? And you wouldn't even have to offer them that much money. If you offered them like $500, that's like a drop in the bucket for you. And you get to use their art, and they get to feel good about the fact that their art is actually in the video game. They can put it on their CV, and they can maybe get a job somewhere in the gaming industry.
It's just,
and here's actually the peak of all of this. I remember being firmly informed by Bungie fans that all of the bullshit in Destiny 2 was as a result of Bobby Kotick and Activision. Like, it was Bobby Kotick and Activision that ruined Destiny 2. And now that Bungie is free, they pop champagne and everything in the offices. Now the game was actually going to be good. Since then, Bungie has become more greedy, right? More scumbag. It's almost, I'm not saying that is what happened, but it's almost as if Bobby Kotick was only the scumbag insofar as whenever they came to him with a glorious idea, it was like, you're crazy. Get back to making your bloody video game. And once they were free of him, once they joined Sony, the Sony guys were like, that's not greedy enough. You gotta amp that shit up. Like, let's go, bro. We need to go where Nintendo is.
I distinctly remember saying, like, listen, when Bobby Kotick is the one holding you back from your greed, you know that shit
there's something wrong, bro.
Real bad. Yeah, dude. But one of the things that I wanted to point out is I actually don't agree with what you were saying about artists, because one of the things that ends up happening if you're just like, oh, give them a couple of bucks and they'll be happy, is that actually is kind of bad for the industry, because you're setting like a very low bar for people having their work featured, which makes it hard for everybody else to get
I wouldn't
work.
Because fundamentally, remember, it is between you and the artist, right? The artist is free to make the arrangements as they choose, right? If the artist goes, I want $50,000, then you're the company can say, well, no, I'm not going to pay you that much. But at least go to the artist and ask. I know of personally artists that would have loved
that.
I
agree.
That
I agree. I just think that artists shouldn't sell themselves too short, is what I'm saying. But that ends up messing up the industry for everybody else. So, like, here's an example, right? I know of a lot of people that do gigs in Portugal, in media and stuff, like, oh, I'm going to do a hosting gig or something for this company or whatever, right? And at some point, they asked me to go do this gig, and it was like, I didn't want the money because, like, it's not my business model. I don't do gigs. It was just like, I do my YouTube stuff and whatever. I just wanted to do the thing because I thought it was going to be fun.
Yeah.
So I could have just said, I don't want any money. I'll just do it, right?
Yeah.
But if I do that, I'm fucking over everybody else that is trying to make a living off of that. So I'm like, instead of that, I went to somebody and I'm like, okay, how much do you usually charge for this type of shit? And then they told me, then I was like, all right, so I'll ask them for the same. And at the end of the day, it's like, I couldn't care less about the money. I was like, I just want to go do the thing because I think it'll be fun as fuck.
Yeah.
So it's like, but I still charge them like what would be considered a fair rate, so that you don't fuck up everybody else in the space. That's kind of like the vibe.
This is why I believe it should be between the artist and the company, right? And every artist is going to think about this differently. For some, it really is just a hobby, so an extra 500 is nice, right? They don't really care about the money either.
I'm just saying.
Others are going to be a little bit more like, they're going to be like, hey, you're going to have to pay me royalties or whatever, right? And then a company is also free to project that.
I'm just saying this because I want people that maybe are artists in the industry or something to consider not just the effects that something has for you, but the effects that it has for other people that might be in your field as well. Like, you might think, for instance, one of the things that I know for a fact, because I have a friend of mine who's in the industry, is voice acting gigs. Like, a lot of people do them for free because, like, oh, fuck yeah, I get to say that I voice acted in this video game. This is great.
Yeah.
But what ends up happening is now a lot of companies don't want to pay people fair wages unless they're hiring someone like, Nolan North or Troy Baker or something like that.
Yeah.
Unless they're hiring those, they don't want to pay people. They want to, like, oh yeah, well, how about you just say a couple of lines? And it's like, well, wait, what the fuck? And it's like, okay, we'll give you a copy of the game or something, right? Which is not ideal.
No, I agree with you, but I do think at the end of the day, it should be up to every artist. My point was it doesn't cost you anything to approach the artist and be like,
yes,
hey,
absolutely. You should ask people rather than fucking steal their art. Yes, absolutely.
Hey, that is the baseline, right? Or at least just notify them, hey, we're stealing your art, so that they know, right?
Yeah.
And But of course they're doing this because they know most normal people don't have the money to go to court on this stuff. Because even if you go to court, it's going to take years before the case is even resolved, and they'll just at the end settle with you anyways for like $1,000 or $2,000, whatever, and you'll be screwed out of whatever you were supposed to get anyway. So they don't care.
Yeah, you're always getting screwed.
And I feel like this is also where gamers need to punish companies like this. It won't happen because gamers aren't a single unitary group, but technically it would be nice if gamers would start punishing people like this for this nonsense. Speaking of some wild crap that happened this week, we have to talk about Kirsche and just the craziness of the VTuber community.
So this is kind of like outside of my wheelhouse, but I've been hearing rumblings about this, and I'm super curious about what the hell is going on. So please fill me in.
Okay, so Kirsche, firstly, is an anti-woke VTuber, right? They're very right-wing, very conservative. Not very right-wing. That's sort of because people think of right-wing as like super racist or whatever. They're just very conservative, and they sort of don't support wokeness in video games. So obviously a lot of their takes are based, and therefore they are considered, or she is considered, as the enemy of the gaming industry by the journalists and all the rest of it. Now, Kirsche has been in and out of sort of controversies for a long time because there is a portion of the VTuber community, although I think they've now sort of found out that they are definitely the minority. But there is a portion of the VTuber community that's like filled with trans people and femboys and all the rest of them, sort of hyper left wing. And they sort of went off on Kirsche. But all of this got sparked by, well, oh man, when you choose your heroes, you have to be super careful, because the hero they decided to back was a person by the name of Anna Valens. Now, Anna Valens is a man who believes that he's a woman. And Anna Valens, the name itself, is wordplay on anal violence.
Wait, so it's a trans person.
Yeah. Anna Valens is a dude that thinks he's a woman. Now,
why you gotta phrase it like that? Just say a trans person.
Because it's a dude, right? Now, Anna Valens is, the wordplay itself is anal violence, okay? And the reason for it is Anna Valens writes exclusively for, I think it's called Watchpoint or something, and Vice. Their job, however, is to write not safe for work smut. When you read some of the articles that he writes, it's insane. Like, this is a person that is so addicted to pornography that their entire life just revolves around pornography. They've written articles about stuff like inserting vibrators and then connecting it to certain programs, that when they play Fall Guys and they bump into people, whenever the controller would vibrate, the vibrator instead would vibrate. And then they would write this article about the kind of orgasms that they were having, but then also raise the ethical concerns of mostly children playing it and them not knowing that they're being hugged and stuff for sexual pleasure by the person playing it, right? So they're very aware of how creepy and weird this shit actually is. But this Anna person then writes an article about Kirsche going after two particular sort of entities. The first is a game called Crime Boss Rocky City or Rocky City. It's kind of like a, what's that game where you and three friends can go rob banks and stuff?
Payday?
Yeah. It's kind of like a Payday clone.
So it's an extraction shooter, basically.
Yeah, kind of, right? They have these things that you have to rob, and you have to blow up safes, and you and your friends are in there doing things. But Kirsche actually discovered this game from a relatively small studio and started playing the game on stream to her significant audience, backed the game long before Kirsche was even partnered with the company, but then Crime Boss absolutely took note and they partnered her, and she got a little bit of money for every single sale that was going on there. And the money even wasn't for her that big of a deal.
An affiliate program.
Yeah, sort of like an affiliate program. But Kirsche actually said, like, she's not doing this for the money because the money isn't really
She's
that
doing
much.
it to support the devs.
Yeah, she loves the game, she loves the concept, and she wants to support what this game could become. Then this article comes out, and the article is basically a smear campaign against Kirsche for being anti-trans, anti-gay, homophobic, racist, bigoted, all the buzzwords that's thrown around.
Is Kirsche all of those things?
No.
Because I don't know.
No, because Kirsche, I would say, is in the anti-woke camp. I would say Kirsche is probably not even close to the most... I think I'm more conservative than Kirsche when it comes to the anti-woke camp, right? Kirsche is literally just against sort of the DEI push within video games.
So
right?
the usual stuff.
Yeah, the normal stuff that most people would be used to. But of course, if you're that far left-wing, everyone is right-wing. Because most people don't join you on like the most extreme versions of the left. And so everyone else is just left-wing. But anyways, so this article basically pulls Crime Boss into the thick of things, calling them out, but then also gamer subs, because Kirsche is also signed with gamer subs.
So wait, just a minute. So what was the reason why Aina Valens decided to write the article, or did I miss that? Because that's the critical piece of information. I understand they wrote an article and then they brought up sponsors and they brought up all this stuff. My question is, well, why now? So it's like Kirsche's been around for a while, is my understanding.
Yeah. So he claims that he wrote it because there's too much extremism in the VTuber community, and it's his job as a journalist to show that and
there's
bring that
too much extremism in the VTuber community, bro. I swear to God, some people are. I just don't understand. How do you you might see like a couple of one or two examples, and then all of a sudden it's like there's too much extremism in this community. It's like it's the same thing that I usually get with the Souls community and Monster Hunter community. Like somebody will have one toxic interaction out of like a million, and then they'll go like, I hate this community. It's like, bro, you had one, you've gotten one bad apple. Like, let's say you got 10 bad apples. Yep. It's like, bro, that's 10 people. 10 fucking people. These are communities of millions. Like, what the fuck?
But I'll get to what actually got revealed. So at the time, he's claiming that's why he's writing the article. The article, of course, comes out. Crime Boss immediately breaks off all partnerships with Kirsche. Gamer Subs doesn't even respond. They couldn't give two shits. They're just like, this has nothing to do with us. You're selling drinks. We don't care, right? But Crime Boss then starts to become the sort of attack, or the center of attack.
First and foremost, one of the things that I want to point out, I think that going after somebody's sponsors, particularly of a creator, that is completely, I think that's off limits. Like if you don't like a content creator for whatever reason, unless you have actual proof that a content creator is doing an actual crime, you don't just go after their sponsors. Because I understand it for a lot of people, this online thing, it's all like, I'm going to go to war with this person. I'm going to ruin their livelihood. And it's like, what the crap, bro? What is it with this life ruination bullshit that everybody's so obsessed about nowadays? Like, can't you, have a beef online without it having like a monetary impact? Like, I don't understand this concept. I think it's completely ridiculous. I've called it out a couple of times from other content creators going after people's sponsors. Like I remember at one point it was It's a Gundam or whatever was criticizing Pokimane.
And she went after
Pokimane. She went after his sponsors. And the funny thing is, his sponsor's like, I don't give a fuck. It's like, this is none of my business. Sounds like some free advertising, bitch.
Let's go. Thanks for talking about us without even, we didn't even ask.
It was crazy.
But
I don't like that aspect of it. I think that is really fucked up going after somebody else's sponsors. Absolutely.
But you see, the problem with the unhinged left is they do believe that
it's not just the left that does it.
Right? No, but that's why I said the unhinged left, right? Because you do get people who are unhinged on the right as well. That definitely exists, right? But the problem with these particular people, and I would say the media is full of them. There's like a bunch of bot accounts on I call them bot accounts, but basically NPC accounts on Twitter that does the same thing. They believe that words are physical violence, right? So your words is a physical crime. And therefore, even in your justification there, they would feel justified in going after your livelihood because you are physically committing violence and crime by just saying words, right? So that's sort of the big problem that you have, because normal people would listen to what you just said and go, yeah, that sounds very reasonable. They would go, well, I am stopping the next Hitler. You know, that's my job. I'm doing the world a favor by stopping the next Adolf from rising from the ashes.
Oh my God,
so
bro.
It's sort of like, but anyway, so Crime Boss gets completely wrecked as a result of this move because they bent the knee to cancel culture, and a lot of gamers, woke and anti-woke alike, are sick and tired of cancel culture, right? So a lot of people are sick and tired of it. So Crime Boss is completely ruined at this point. Gamer Subs doesn't give a crap. What ends up happening is, obviously, I would say most of the VTuber community comes out in support of Kirsche, and also, obviously, myself and all of the anti-woke gamers immediately go, wait, new target acquired. Let's go.
I saw that.
Right?
I saw that Side Scrollers was talking about that yesterday or something. And
Yeah,
they had like 4.6 thousand concurrents. I was like, damn.
Yeah,
I guess this isn't going the way that people thought it was going to, huh?
No, but obviously now Anna Valence is getting attacked from everywhere because people aren't. You're not looked at kindly when you engage in obvious cancel culture sort of tactics, because it is a tactic that throws back to like 2013, 2014. They did this with a lot of content creators back then, also going after sponsors. Back then, YouTube would just demonetize channels, so they went balls to the wall on that stuff.
I remember that.
Yeah, so people are very sensitive to it now. So obviously, Anna Valence gets attacked brutally, and I would say deservedly, for what they did. And then suddenly, as is always the case with these people, now suddenly he's the victim. Oh, all these people are attacking me. This is the kind of people, I'm just doing my job over here. And it's like, wait, what? You're not just doing your job. You wrote a hit piece. And the problem is now you're crying because it's completely backfiring. So a lot of the woke VTubers immediately join in and start to go to bat for Anna Valence, saying that everyone's just transphobic and Anna Valence is a beacon of justice and goodness and all this shit. And then comes the chickens come home to roost. We start to dig like we do, right? And we very quickly find some rather disturbing stuff. So firstly, Anna Valence openly in a Discord claimed to be suffering from POCD. That's when you have OCD.
POCD.
You have OCD that you might be a PDF file. So you'll watch CP in order to figure out if you are, right? Like stuff like this. So it's disturbing, to say the least. Very disturbing. They then also, after admitting to this, they come out and admit or sort of joke that they're going to start writing age play smut, right? So basically, if you're already suffering with PDF file stuff, the last thing you should do is start writing fantasy about how you're engaging in PDF file stuff. So that sort of comes out, right? This beacon of justice and goodness in the left is now turning out to not be that good and just and all the rest of it. But some people are still defending it, saying, dude, when you read some of the replies and stuff to this, the amount of acronyms that exist to explain just normal PDF filing is insane. Right, because they keep coming up with these.
I remember at one point it was MAPs or whatever, and I was like, "What the fuck do you mean MAPs,
AVDs?
I know exactly what
I don't know what.
about.
Yeah, it's like it's it's meant to soften it, and also meant to make it so no one really knows what you're actually talking about, right? But anyway, so that actually comes out. Then, once you know that, the article about the vibrator and Fall Guys start to go very dark very quickly, right? Because that's very awkward and weird now.
Jesus Christ.
But it actually, it sort of just builds into this person is completely and utterly unhinged. But then we find the real reason for the article. Remember what I told you? He said he wrote the article because there's just too much extremism in the VTuber community. But about 2 months ago, Anna Valens applied to one of the bigger VTuber agencies, Avalanche or some shit like that. I can't remember the name now off the top of my head. And Anna Valens was declined because the agency requires that you sound like a woman if you want to be signed by them.
So it's a female only.
Yeah.
Or at least female presenting only.
Yeah. Like in their thing, they have no problem if you're trans, but you have to sound like a woman. If you don't sound like a woman, they don't sign you. Because that's the whole thing that they're selling. So now it starts to make
hyper niche VTuber network.
Yeah. So now it starts to make a little bit more sense, right? What this article was actually meant to achieve.
Sounds like revenge or something.
Yeah, kind of, right? But then you also have a video that it's voice only that comes out during sort of lockdowns, where Anna Valens was sharing on Discord some of his fantasies. And he has these fantasies of women, right? What he calls cis women or just normal women being bred in these breeding farms by trans women. And talking about how they would have to be, like, he says the most unhinged shit, like, this macaroni in a pot pussy, and like he literally makes women into complete objects for his sexual satisfaction, and they'll be in these breeding farms where they'll have to be carried out. That's how they'll be destroyed by these trans women.
Christ.
Like, just these unhinged fantasies that this guy has about the stuff that he wants to do to women. All of this comes out. Now he goes on the defense and he's like, oh, they're slandering me and making up all this shit about me, but we have the actual voice recordings of him saying all of this stuff. And eventually, I think last night late, they announced that they're going silent for a while. Vice, actually, after Kirsche threatened a lawsuit against this article because the article makes a bunch of claims that cannot be substantiated. Finally, Vice goes, what articles? They just delete all of the articles. Like, what article? We don't know what you're talking about. And they basically delete a lot of Anna Valens's articles as well. They're like, oh, shit, we went to bat. Because originally, another editor at Vice wrote an article about how disgusting the harassment of Anna Valens is, right? They took that down. They took the Anna Valens article down. They're like, no, never mind. Don't pay attention to any shit we're doing. So Anna Valens's career is effectively over. But of course, the VTuber left-wing community, once they saw that they were not in the majority, they were a very tiny minority in the left on the VTuber. I was surprised because I always thought VTubing is for basically degenerates and stuff, right? But it turns out they're based.
I mean, there's degenerates. There's degenerates on both sides of the political
obviously.
sphere. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that the VTuber community is like very diverse when it comes to that type of stuff. You're gonna have a wide variety. It's one of those things where people keep putting, like, they'll have one or two interactions and they'll put something in a box. Like, you're guilty of doing it too, right? You're like, oh, I thought that these guys were more left leaning and whatnot.
Yeah, obviously,
and
but
turns out, I'm sure that there's plenty of them on both on both sides of the political spectrum.
The numbers,
it is what it is.
The numbers
are individuals.
I mean, let me put it this way: the numbers seem to suggest that the right-wing VTuber and VTuber audience is far bigger than the left-wing one, because the left-wing got completely wrecked in this. So many of them
I just think
have gotten their asses
that some
handed to them.
people. I just think that what happened was probably a lot of people on the left saw this and they were like, okay, this person's fucking unhinged. I'm not touching this. And it was just like the more extremist ones that came out to defend this person, to fight their crusade for them or whatever. And probably a large portion just didn't get involved.
You might be.
That's what I would expect.
You might be right, but the largest VTubers, so the ones that's really big in the space, during this whole thing, all came out on Kirsche's side, right? Even the ones that isn't objectively political, they don't go full on into politics during their live streams, came out and said fully, wholeheartedly support Kirsche.
Yeah, and why do you think that left people wouldn't be able to support Kirsche? Just because she's right?
Because remember, we're not talking about, I think you're confusing left and liberal, right? Liberal people would absolutely come out. When I say left, I'm talking specifically about far left, right? So I'm talking about people that are on the left. I have not seen it yet, right? When I look at left-wingers, even in moments where we can absolutely show that this happened, they'll either pretend like it didn't happen, right? At least this is what I have found, right? If there are people like that, they can let me know. But I'm yet to find a single left-winger that when I present evidence to them that this did indeed happen the way that it did, they go, oh,
that's like
never mind.
A different conversation. Here's what I'm going to ask. Are you 100% sure that, let's say there's somebody on Twitter came out to bat for Kirsche, not one of them had like a trans flag on their bio?
I didn't see any trans flags in their bio. Right, but obviously I didn't see every single one of them.
Of course, that's what I'm saying.
And I would also say, the trans flag doesn't necessarily mean that you're left wing. Blair White is trans, and Blair White is very much not left wing, right? So the trans flag alone does not suggest left or right wing.
Okay.
So
you're right. You're right. I'm guilty of doing the thing that I tell people not to do, which is to generalize. You're right. You're right.
The thing is, every one of us are guilty of that, right? Because humans are very quick, and I make this mistake all the time.
We're very
quick to make snap judgments.
But basically, what I'm saying is like I believe that probably among the wave of people that supported Kirsche, there's people of all walks of life.
Maybe
they just looked at the situation and they were like, okay, this person over here is clearly fucking unhinged.
Yeah.
So fuck him, and I stand with Kirsche.
Well,
that'd be what I would have expected.
Because I followed the story sort of from the beginning. I'm talking about before we even knew about the unhinged stuff that Anna Valens had been doing. You had massive support for Kirsche, right? That came from the VTuber community. So I would just say
Kirsche is well known in the VTuber community.
But remember the argument here is just that my snap judgment about VTubers were always, I feel like most of them would probably be super left-wing. And what I found out is that actually a lot of them are based, very, very based. And it actually turns out that a lot of VTubers choose VTubing because it allows them to be based without being doxxed, right? Without having their faces shown. They can do it sort of anonymously a little bit more. Because
look at Rev says Desu or whatever.
Yeah, right. You have Rev. So it was quite kind of an eye opener for me.
I guess old Rev didn't make it to the VTuber agency either, huh?
No, I think he missed out. He does not sound like a woman, right?
Exactly. It doesn't sound like a woman at all.
But anyway, so this whole thing basically ended Anna Valens' career.
By the way,
Yeah.
By the way, I just want to point out that anybody that follows VTuber events, stuff like that, I'm sorry. I don't mean to be disrespectful. I don't know that much about VTuber communities. Okay.
Yeah, I should just point that out as well. I'm expert on VTuber.
I'm gonna get my ass canceled too. I'm next on the chopping block.
I'm no expert on VTubing. I will say though, over the last few weeks, I've gotten to know a little bit more about the VTubing community, and I do have a lot more respect now for the VTubing community than what I had like a few months ago even. And it wasn't that I ever disrespected you, but it was more just sort of this weird niche, almost sort of hentai kind of thing that I thought about when I thought VTubing. I never thought anything more about it.
Like
just because it's not.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
I don't know too much about the VTuber community, but I do know people that VTube. Some of them I even know in person.
Oh yeah.
It's like they're just normal dudes.
Yeah. I'm not. But remember, I don't know really anyone that VTubes, right? And I also don't consume that as content, really. The most VTubering I've ever seen is Rave and Kirsche, and it's only when they're doing like videos that I really find interesting that I'll watch. Otherwise, I don't follow the community as a whole. So I just sort of lived in this glorious ignorance of that's what it is, and I'm done caring about it, right?
The glorious ignorance of VTubing is basically hentai.
Yeah, like that was just my ignorance, right? I was just super happy to just believe that, and
cancel this man right now. You're the degenerate.
I do have a lot more respect now for the VTubing community, just because even if you are on the left, if you stood up for Kirsche and you were like, "This is not good," I appreciate that, right? And I think we need more people from both sides of the political aisle, because I would honestly do the same, even if it is someone on the left. There's some things that you are more than welcome to go after, right? You can criticize someone's opinion, you can criticize what someone is doing, but then stuff like sponsorships, that's just not on. It's sort of like I heard this argument from someone saying, isn't this exactly what you guys are doing to journalists when you get them fired? And it's like, hold up. The journalist gets fired because they're being called out on the bad work they're doing. We're not running cancel campaigns. None of us are, atting Kotaku and being like, hey, Kotaku, why is Alyssa Mercante still working for you? But if you're a journalist and you're hated within the gaming space, why would a gaming website let you write for them? Your articles are physically not going to get views because gamers hate you because you continuously lie about gamers. That is a different thing. If Anna Valens just wrote this article, right, and just highlighted all of the wrong things according to him, Kirsche said, that would have been one thing. The fact that they go out of their way to involve the sponsors of Kirsche
and the video game, and
that's the issue, right? Because the sponsors,
which is something that I instantly called out, by the way. You don't go after somebody's sponsors. It's fucked up.
Because remember, the sponsors have nothing to do with it, right? They're just sponsoring a shit ton of YouTubers and streamers, just trying to make money off of as many people playing it. So it's a bit of a mess of a story, but that's the full story, right?
But it's interesting because it opens us up for another story that I know happened this week that we don't have in the docket.
Oh?
That I just got reminded of it as you were talking about this.
Okay.
This is actually a game that I like quite a bit. I've recently streamed it. As a matter of fact, I mentioned it in the last podcast that I was going to stream it after that podcast.
Oh?
And it is No Rest for the Wicked. You made a video on this.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
Apparently a bunch of people had been leaving negative reviews on Steam because as a form of protest, which is something that happens quite often.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily say that it is a review bomb, even though you can consider that. But apparently the game went to overwhelmingly negative, which was something that was surprising to me because I came into the latest update late.
Yeah.
So I didn't play it immediately when it released because to me it's like I want to play the 1.0 version of No Rest for the Wicked. So I'm going to check in from time to time just to see what the progress is looking like. But basically, I had already played all of the story. I think that The Breach adds a little bit more story.
Okay.
But I had already played all of the story. I really, really enjoyed it. I love the combat system in that game. It is very, very satisfying. I love the art style of that game. It is fucking gorgeous. It is one of the most beautiful games out there. And the animations are absolutely phenomenal. I mean, and this is developer from Ori and the Blind Forest, right?
Yeah.
So
Moon Studios.
Moon Studios. And apparently what happened was their latest patch had a lot of problems.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people left negative reviews, which is fair. And basically he went to Discord and he mentioned on Discord, hey guys, we get it. Like some of you guys had problems with our latest patch. Blah, 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 blah. And the thing is, if you guys keep just leaving a bunch of negative reviews, we're not going to get recommended by the Steam algorithm. It's kind of like the same thing as likes on a YouTube video, if you really think about it, right? You don't get likes on a YouTube video. You don't get discovered by the YouTube algorithm, and you don't make revenue because your video gets no discovery. That's just the way that it goes. And Steam operates, I would imagine, on a similar way. That stuff will make it onto people's recommended pages and shit like that, based on the number of wish listings and on the number of positive reviews and so on and so forth.
There's also another part of it that I know I do, and I would actually be surprised. Like, I would love to hear this from you guys in the comments. How many of you do the same thing? When I see a game pop up on my homepage on Steam, I'll just hover the game because it brings up that little box that tells you the review score.
Yeah, and review score.
Yeah, and if I see
if it's bad,
mixed, I'm instantly like, I won't buy that. Because mixed immediately tells me, damn, maybe I'm one of the people that hate it, so I'm not going to buy it.
And that's the thing. That's the point that I think it was Thomas Mahler who wrote that. Yeah. That's the point that he was making on Discord. It's like, hey, listen, guys, we're gonna head into some tough times if we just get negative reviews. So if you played it and if you enjoyed it, can you please leave us a positive review? Yeah. Which is pretty much the same thing that YouTubers will do on their videos. Like, hey, if you guys enjoyed this video, hit the like.
Hit the like, yeah.
Like that. That's it.
Yeah.
He just asked for the same thing, but on Steam. And also he mentions, by the way, if things keep going down this road, we don't know if we might have to shut the studio down, which is fair because of the fact that, for those of you that don't know, Moon Studios used to be a part of Private Division, which was a division by, I think it's Take-Two Interactive, were the owners of that one, if I'm not mistaken. I forget. It's one of the big publishers.
Yeah.
Take-Two or 2K, whatever the fuck. It's one of those two.
Yeah, I think it was 2K that...
No, I think it's Take-Two.
Yeah, Take-Two closed.
Yeah. And Take-Two closed Private Division because they don't give a fuck. They just want to make GTA or whatever the fuck it is that those guys are doing out there.
Yeah.
And so because of that, what was going to end up happening is like, oh, we're kind of fucked for Moon Studios, right? Mm-hmm. But Moon Studios were like, well, we're going to buy the publishing rights back, which is a massive fucking gamble if you think about it, because they have to like buy the game that they've created back for themselves so that they can publish it themselves or whatever. And so because they took that chance, that's one of the reasons why the game hasn't received a lot of development, because they've been like reorganizing and doing all this shit. And now they release this patch and they get like a bunch of negative reviews, and Thomas Mahler is maybe being a little bit reactionary because like, oh fuck, I gambled everything that I had on this and it's getting a bunch of negative reviews. Shit might go south really, really fast. I need to try and do something, right? Mm-hmm. And so what happens with mainstream media? They go out there and they're like, Moon Studios says they're closing down.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait, what? So yeah, they just like straight, and apparently there was a bunch of people that wrote articles about this.
Oh yeah.
Which was basically kind of like misrepresenting the story.
Yeah.
And we all know that the reason is because, at least part of the reason is going to be because Thomas Mahler is very vocal about not introducing politics into his video games.
Yep. And for the media, there's this thing of, if you're not with us, you're against us. You can't just be, you cannot just be neutral. You cannot. If you're neutral, you are the enemy, right? Like, they'll just shoot you on sight. Because there were genuinely, if you read his comment, right, he's not saying that they're on the brink of bankruptcy. He's saying that if we stay at mixed, which is perfectly valid. I just told you, I'm pretty sure most of you in the comments is going to be like, yeah, bro, I do the same thing, right? If it stays at mixed, people aren't going to buy the game. And therefore, they're going to struggle and suffer, and eventually they're going to have to close, because remember, they're now making the game on their own dime. They no longer have a publisher that can back them on this. So, it is sort of like, you can understand where he's coming from, but at no point does he say, guys, it's like tomorrow. We're closing the doors tomorrow. I have the keys. I'm locking up unless you guys go out and like. He's just asking if you enjoyed it. Leave a positive review. Just tell people this is actually pretty good. And people did. Right? The game went to mostly positive.
And one of the things that I've had experience with that game, by the way, when they initially did their early access, it was actually very interesting, because I had this performance issue, and I was like, oh man, the game's fun. The biggest problem is performance. And in my comment section, one of the people working on the game engine goes out there and it's like, well, with your hardware, that's kind of weird. Could you send us like, can we get like a capture mon from you? So it's like, he's asking me for feedback so that I can like give them like, performance analysis, whatnot. And that's actually the first time that I used Presentmon, because he asked me to use Presentmon, which is the thing that has like charts and graphics and gives you different stats of what things are being used by your hardware. And, he was looking it over and he's like, oh, I still don't understand. Then eventually another commenter went in there and it's like, maybe it's your RAM timings. And I was like, what the fuck? I mean, I did have like blackouts shortly before that. And the blackouts actually caused my fucking RAM timings to reset the default. And I never even noticed. So it was one of those things that was so close together that I didn't even have time to notice on other games. And instead of my RAM timings being at like 4,000, they were at 2,000. And it was literally that. The moment I changed that, everything was fixed. And I was like,
nice.
Oh, God. I was like, oh, no.
But it is nice to see. And they're like this with everything. I mean, you follow Thomas.
Yeah, they're very responsive. Yeah.
Yeah. Once they sort of, as you said, figured out the whole publishing situation, because you can imagine there has to be a massive shift within the company because,
absolutely.
Suddenly the job that was always done by someone else, you now have to figure out how do you guys do that job, right? But now they're responding literally daily to massive problems that players may be having. Thomas Mahler is putting out questions on X. This is actually something that's beautiful to see because CI Games, Marek from CI Games is doing the same thing. They'll just ask people straight on X, what don't you like about this current system? And then you'll just the next day you're, based on feedback, we're going to be making these changes. Which is cool.
There is something, there is something to be said about that because that's cool and all, but at the same time, I'm not a huge fan of games being developed by committee, even if that committee is the community at large. I do feel that at some point, the developers need to be like, no, this is our vision. And we're going to push back if you want to change this because it's, there are certain things that need to remain the same. I do think that there are some things that they're looking at like that. Yeah. But I'm just saying there needs to be a balance when it comes to that.
No, I think we're going to be talking about it. I guess we can just talk about it now because we're in this space at the moment. So we're kind of merging two topics, I guess, a little bit here. But it's kind of what Hideo Kojima said about Death Stranding 2. Right. So just hilarious quote first before we go into anything else. Hideo Kojima is actually disappointed at the moment because he says when he showed testers Death Stranding 1, almost all of the testers were disappointed in the game. They were like, man, this isn't working for me. And then now that he shows people Death Stranding 2, a lot of people are going, dude, this is really great. And he's disappointed by that because he actively says, he doesn't make games for everyone. He doesn't want everyone to like his games, which is just basically wordplay on what Hideo Miyazaki said years ago as well. A game made for everyone is a game made for no one. Now, they did ask Hideo Kojima to sort of reiterate on this. And he said, look, if there are certain gameplay elements that players don't like, I'll make changes there, right? If there's certain sort of systems that players maybe don't like, I'll look at what to do there. But when it comes to the actual form and concept and story of the game, I don't care what you think. This is my game. I am making this game.
I don't give a fuck.
Yeah. And I feel like we can link that to No Rest for the Wicked and what Lords of the Fallen is doing. As a developer, and I agree with you, you have to be very careful. You have to determine what is the soul of your game. And you can't make changes to that, right? Yeah. All of the fluff around it, you can do that by sort of semi-committee. Because players don't always know what they want, but they can at least tell you what they don't like. And then you can go, okay, we can probably make some changes here. But identify the soul of what your game is and be like, so when people come in and say, well, I don't really like this Souls-like ARPG. Well, tough, then don't play it, right? Because this is a Souls-like ARPG.
That's too bad.
Yeah, if I make changes there, my game loses what it is, right? And I'm not changing that. because I did actually see someone going, I would love to play this, but I hate Souls-likes, and I'm not going to play a Souls-like RPG. If they change that, I'll buy the game. I'm like, then just buy Path of Exile 2. Like, why?
Yeah.
Why are you doing this? Like, they don't have to make that change, right? So yeah, that would be my sort of take on that. I think the drama is insane, but it just goes against, or again, to show my utter hatred for the media. Because, dude, the amount of actual journalists in the media these days that still do a job that you could say is valuable is just getting fewer and fewer. Because so many of them are getting caught up in this endless cycle of content hunting. Right? They're just looking for the next big quote, the next big click. And I kind of get why. The gaming media is in terminal problems. You just had Polygon. We didn't even include this. Polygon is going out of business. They're being bought by some other studio or some other media company. So Polygon is in serious trouble. You have Kotaku looking at more layoffs now. Almost every single one of these studios is in terminal decline, or media outlets is in terminal decline. So they're sort of becoming almost like fluff posters now. Like whatever they can find that maybe gets a click. It's kind of like those AI videos on YouTube where it's just complete nonsense, AI voice reading, AI script. It's just trying to farm as many views as possible. That's sort of a lot of the gaming media at the moment. Just farm whatever views you can get, which is not your job. Your job is to report the actual news, how it actually should be done, right? And you're supposed to be unbiased in that, but, it is what it is. Do you have anything else that you want to add to the story? Or the Hideo Kojima one?
Nope. No, I'm good. It's like in regards to the Hideo Kojima one, I just still think it's funny that a lot of people are super gassed over Death Stranding 2 when in its essence it's the same game as Death Stranding 1, except it's got, continues the story, has, probably better fidelity or
more
something
action
along
right
those
from
lines.
the start. We spoke about
it has more action from the start, yep. But in its essence, it's still Death Stranding 1. And it's just interesting to see how the view on it has shifted so much. As someone that was an enjoyer of Death Stranding 1, it's just interesting to see everybody's like, oh my God, Death Stranding is so good. Yeah. It's like, that's not what you said last time.
No.
I remember last time. Yeah. Y'all were fucking shitting all over it.
It's a walking simulator.
Walking simulator.
You're just a mailman.
Yeah.
It's like, well, all right, it is a mechanic of the game, but you would know that if you actually played it properly. If you're going into Death Stranding 2 and you didn't like Death Stranding 1, don't go into Death Stranding 2. I will just say that right off the bat.
I guarantee there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be playing Death Stranding 2. And they're going to force themselves to like it because it's going to be trendy to like Death Stranding 2.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting thing. It's a very interesting thing.
Humans is a herd animal at the end of the day, dude. We do what the majority tells us to do.
Big true.
On to, I guess the story itself. Me and Rurikon were sort of going back and forth beforehand whether or not this story should be included. Because it's not really gaming related, although it is a precursor to what will come to the gaming industry. Microsoft has just announced the layoff of 6,000 devs. And one of the key reasons for it is AI. As more and more of their divisions are being taken over by AI, or at least being partially helped by AI, a lot of the positions are just becoming largely redundant. And so AI
is an extremely useful tool at the end of the day.
Oh, yeah.
It's just what do you end up using it for? So like in my case, I actually use AI. I don't use it for scripting because most of my shit's unscripted anyways. And I usually don't like the scripted texts that AI pops out. I've tried getting AI to like do texts and I was like, I wouldn't sound like that. It's weird, strange. But one of the things that AI is very useful for me is to brainstorm title ideas. for videos. So like I'll go up to ChatGPT and I'm like, okay, listen, I'm thinking about doing this. How would you change it? And then it goes like, okay, here's like the super clickbaity version. And I'm like, okay, I definitely don't want that Mr. Beast title. So let's tone that down a smidge, and then I'll go back and forth, and then eventually I come up with my own. Okay, but it acts as kind of like a bouncing of ideas type of thing. And for that, it is very useful to just like bounce ideas back and forth until eventually you're like, this one I like, this one works, this one suits my style, and boom. So I usually use it a lot for coming up with ideas for titles. Not for it to do the titles, but to bounce ideas back and forth until I come up with something that I like.
I do the same. So what I've recently started doing is I'll drag my video into DaVinci Resolve. DaVinci Resolve has this ability to transcribe the script.
Transcribe the video, yeah.
So then I'll copy the script. Well, it's not the script, it's me recording the video, but then it tells me what I said.
Yeah.
And then I'll paste that into like ChatGPT, and I'll be like,
damn.
You're
like a step above.
Yeah. But it's only because otherwise I have to sit there and type out exactly what the video is about so that it knows what I'm talking about. So then I'll go, this is the title I chose for the video. Can you tell me what is wrong with my title and how it could be optimized to be more clickable but not clickbait? You know, you have like a whole list of commands or prompts that you give it, and it will analyze the script and it will give you a title, a description, some tags, and all the rest of it. And sometimes it even gives you ideas for what the thumbnail could look like. But then you get into what I call my argument hour with ChatGPT, where I will now start to argue with it over its thumbnails or its title that it's suggesting, going back and forth. And the one time I actually had ChatGPT admit that it was wrong, because it kept saying, your title is perfect, but it's very vague and it won't be searchable. You need more SEO terms in your title. I'm like, hold on. If the SEO is already in the description, why do I also need the SEO in the title? And it's like, I didn't think about that. Since the SEO is already in the description, maybe we don't have to have, because the title it gave me was just a bunch of search terms
SEO
strung together.
Search terms.
Yeah, it doesn't even read like a normal thing. And I'm like, I don't want to use this title. I'm going to use mine. And then eventually it was like, yes, yours is actually perfect for it.
I mean, but the thing is, it is programmed to eventually agree with you if you push it enough. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, the point is, a lot of people are already using AI.
Yeah.
And it is going to be a situation where a lot of people are going to be losing their jobs because of AI. It fucking sucks, but that's just the reality of it. And one of the things that we're going to have to deal with in the very near future, not even like that far away, is that quite simply, and I believe I've brought this up in the pod, if not in this podcast, in the one that we did before, the Frozen Sodium Throne, quite simply, there's not enough jobs for everyone. Like, forget about that. Like, it's never going to be the case where there's jobs for everyone ever again. It's not happening, okay? People have lost jobs to automation like years ago, and they're going to be losing jobs by the bucket load to AI now. That's just a fact of life. So we need to come up with something, whether that's like the universal basic income or whatever the fuck. Something definitely needs to be done. I don't know what the solution is because I'm not an economist. I'm not a politician. I have no fucking idea how to deal with it. But quite simply, there's not going to be jobs for everyone. Well, that's just a reality.
I think so. Where I would disagree is I'm not suggesting that there should not be a universal basic income, but I do think people jump to universal basic income as like the solution before.
I don't know if it's the solution.
Before we even discuss possible other solutions, right? So one of the things that happened with automation that was amazing was obviously the fact that we could make a lot more stuff a lot cheaper, right? And with automation, the longer you make stuff, the cheaper it gets to make. So, you know, that's amazing. But we never actually readjusted as a result of that training, universities, and all the rest of it, right? Because as new technologies become available, it is true that does replace a lot of jobs, but it also oftentimes then opens up new opportunities in other sectors that would not have existed prior to this, where I feel like because of regulations and sometimes over-regulation, this has not happened. Even with AI, in the way that AI is going to replace a bunch of jobs, it is most likely going to lead away from, I think what AI is going to do, in the last 20 or so years, we've gone through a period of massive specialization, right? Where almost everyone goes to university in order to become specialized in one particular thing. I always like to use the medical sort of realm. AI will probably replace surgeons in the very near future, right? Because surgeons are oftentimes specialized. So you get a surgeon that specializes on the brain. You get a surgeon that specializes on lungs and heart and all the rest of it. AI will probably be able to replace that because it will be much more accurate, much more. What AI can't replace is a GP.
Wait until AI gets a blue screen of death.
Yeah, well, that's probably, our technology might not be there yet, so it won't be unassisted, but it'll definitely be. We already have it, right? You already have hospitals in the US, and I'm sure even in Europe, where the surgeon is literally using his hands through the robot because the robot is just able to be much more precise and
steadier.
Yeah. So that might be replaced, but a general practitioner, so a GP, my father's a GP, AI will have a hard time treating that because oftentimes GPs deal with such a wide array of things that could be wrong, and it's not always super obvious what is wrong just based on what someone's telling you, right? Because sometimes what they're telling you is wrong is actually just a symptom of a much different thing that might not even be related to it. And as a GP, you have to trust your gut sometimes. You have to trust your instincts and just go, but maybe it's this thing. So it will be harder to replace that. So I do think before we go to universal basic income, we do have to first start talking about maybe we're exiting the era of hyper-specialization and entering the era of generalization again. Right. So we're almost going back to saying, instead of having one developer specialized just in this one thing, having one developer that can do multiple things is better because, that's harder to replace with AI.
We'll see how that pans out, but basically the point is Microsoft laying off a bunch of people, expect more people to be laid off in the gaming industry as well, especially because Electronic Arts is also deciding that, you know what, we're going to end work from home. Yeah. We're going to have people come back to the office. And I think that one of the reasons why Electronic Arts is doing this is because they want to force people to quit. Yeah. Because they're like, this person didn't want. We told them to come in. They said they can't because apparently they're in another state or something. Like when we hired them, it's like why were they in another state? They should have been in the same state that we need them to work in. So they need to come into the office. And it's like, so they couldn't come into the office, so they quit. Yeah, we didn't fire them. There were no layoffs. No, they quit. Yeah, not our fault. Had nothing to do with it.
I would just,
oopsie daisy.
Before we go into the story, I just need to clarify something. I am speaking from the perspective on this whole AI replacing jobs thing. I am speaking from the perspective of a South African. I recognize that in other countries, there is a massive difference. So I know in Europe, for example, general practitioners, because all of you go to the hospital, the second you have maybe like a skin problem, they'll immediately refer you to the dermatologist, right? In South Africa, that's not really how it works. So I went to a GP I have a cancer here on my nose, right? And I went to the GP. They looked at it and I'm like, oh yeah, we'll just burn that off for you. And I was like, so you're not going to refer me to the dermatologist? And he's like, no, why? I know what it is. I'll just burn it off. That wouldn't happen, I'm assuming, in some European country. I don't want to speak for all of the European countries. So at least in South Africa, it would be hard for AI to replace, right? Because GPs oftentimes or rarely will send someone to a specialist. Very rarely. Because remember, the GP doesn't get any money if they send you to the specialist. So if they can sort it out themselves, they'll sort it out themselves. So I just keep that in mind. I am talking from my perspective, not from yours. But anyways, so on to the topic that you brought up. I think these two things is related, very much so. AI will cost a lot of developers their jobs, but EA's move is very interesting in that I think you're spot on.
They want people to quit.
They need people to quit.
Exactly.
Because, so put this stuff together. A few months ago, EA announces that they've basically removed all but 12 developers out of BioWare. And they've moved them to other divisions. We now have games like Clair Obscur being made by 30 developers with a fraction of the budget that even Dragon Age the Veilguard would have had, right? We have games like Rebel Wolves, the studio Rebel Wolves that's making that Dawnbreaker, Dawnwalker, Blood of the Dawnwalker, is it? Whatever that game is called, right?
I forget what it is, but it's the vampire game from the Witcher team, yeah.
Yeah, and that's a full-fledged AAA-esque kind of, at least that's the promise, RPG made by a studio of 90 people. Right? So clearly, because of AI, studios don't have to be 300-400 people anymore. Even Larian Studios, by the way, made Baldur's Gate 3 with 350 developers. Larian Studios is currently working on 2 games at the same time, and I think that's because they realized with the innovations of AI, they can just split the team right down the middle and still make their game, right?
He has mentioned something about AI recently in an interview or something. He was just saying that it is important to know where to use AI to the point where you're not replacing actual human creativity and human development and stuff like that.
I have no doubt that EA is going to use AI for all the wrong things, right? I have no doubt about that. Like, wait, do we really need scriptwriters? I asked ChatGPT the other day for a bedtime story, and it
do we need
wrote
artists?
Wonderful one.
Like, look at this concept art I just got off of ChatGPT.
Dude,
easy money.
Ark is already going for it. Like, we saw the cinematic for Ark. That was
Ark doesn't surprise me. Those guys are scumbags, straight up. Those guys are scam artists.
EA isn't. Like, let's just be real. If Andrew Wilson can replace all of the artists, so I do agree with Svein. AI is brilliant for some things, but I always say AI is brilliant as an assistant. It's not the head of the department. You use it as an assistant, it will do phenomenal work for you, but you still need a human there in order to understand the human connection. Because AI cannot do this. You said it. When AI writes a script, it doesn't sound like you. And the reason it doesn't sound like you is it doesn't know what it is to be a human.
I tried for a while. I was like, let's see how close I can get it. I fed it like a bunch of my scripts.
Yeah.
And I was like, now write something, make it sound like me. And then I was like, no, that's terrible.
Yeah, because it doesn't understand. Remember, much of what you do is also tailored to how you would experience it if it is done to you. Right? Yeah. That's how we do things. And AI can't imagine that because it doesn't know what it actually experiences when it is done to it. Same with AI art. It doesn't know what art really is because it doesn't know how to observe art. It doesn't know what it would feel if it sees art, right? Yeah, I have my suspicions that it will never know because we don't know what human consciousness is. So we probably would never.
All I have to say is like Sarah Connor is looking at all of these events. Like, have you seen the memes of Sarah Connor watching you become friends with ChatGPT? And it's just her giving you the side eye. She's like, really? After everything I've done to save humanity, you're friends with fucking Skynet?
Yeah.
What is wrong with you?
I mean, it's possible. I have some problems with that, but I won't go too deep into that. It's just sort of my own musings. But I do think if you put all of this stuff together, EA knows that they don't need most of those developers. I will also say a lot of the developers that will refuse to come back to the office tend to be younger, almost Gen Z, late millennials, right? That want to work from home. We have the studies. I actually had the studies pulled up and then I closed it for some reason. But there's so many studies that's now been done on work from home that finds that a vast majority of workers do not work well from home. Productivity does tank as a result of it. No, I mean,
I kind of disagree with that.
We genuinely have the results. There's some workers that have what they call internal motivation. So they're motivated because they have to work, right? Whether they're from home, whether they're at the office, they'll motivate themselves. And those workers are more productive at home because work can oftentimes introduce sort of distractions that they don't necessarily want to deal with. The problem is internal motivations are actually very rare. Most people have what is called external motivation. In other words, unless they're told to work, they find it very difficult to stay working. So they're very easily sort of pulled into some direction or the other. So they do actually find that production in work from home does go down, which is already a problem for the AAA because their production isn't high to begin with, right? They're already struggling with production. Now, I think that you can have, so for example, my brother, their company works from home entirely, but what they have said is their turnover of employees is much higher. So for every 10 employees that start to work for them, they'll keep one. Because most of them just end up not really doing their jobs, but then you find this one that is fine at doing their job, right? And doing it super well at home. So there is sort of, I think from EA's perspective, I don't think that's necessarily what they're thinking about entirely, but I do think from their perspective, the people who are genuinely in love with video games and aren't just in it to make political statements or whatever, they'll probably return back to the office, right? Because they want to make video games. So this is... The second is they get to take the thousands of people that work for them and maybe half them without having to pay out massive bonuses. Right?
I think that's more it than anything.
No, obviously.
I don't know about those studies though, because like I've seen a lot of data that would actually indicate otherwise, but I don't have it off the top of my mind now. So yeah.
The next story is GTA 4 remaster. Have you heard of that?
I haven't heard about this at all. I wasn't aware that they were doing a remaster of GTA 4.
So GTA 4 is currently rumored to be a remaster. And there's some rumors from within Rockstar that suggests that because GTA 6 has been delayed for another year, and it turns out that most of the developers that worked on GTA 6 aren't involved in the delay, because a lot of it is just polish and sort of making sure that the game is, I guess, up to date and up to par. They're now going to instead give people GTA 4 remaster, because they did the sort of remaster of GTA 5 a while ago. I don't know if you saw that, but there's like a new enhanced edition of GTA 5 with like upscaled graphics and stuff. It's like, it's not like new world graphics, but higher fidelity and all the rest.
Isn't that like the PS5 version or whatever? Because they did something.
Yeah, the PS5 Pro, but they also did it for PC. Right, so it also came to PC with a bit higher fidelity and all the rest of it. I've been meaning to play that again just to finish that with the new graphics and stuff as well. But it turns out, like, at least the rumors suggest that they're gonna do GTA 4 remaster because they can knock that out in this year still. So they can do the full remaster for GTA 4 this year, which gives them a game that they can sell.
Yeah. To make up for
the fact that they don't have GTA 6 ready yet.
They don't have anything. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you make of that?
I don't know. It might hold some water, considering that it doesn't make a lot of sense for them to do one for 5, especially because 5 is still very active with GTA Online and all of that stuff. So that doesn't make a whole lot of sense going. I think that they've recently done one of 3, which was terrible, if I remember correctly. Like, most people panned it. It wasn't very good. So yeah, it would make sense for them to go back to 4 because that's the one they haven't remastered yet. But is it going to be successful? I don't know. Are people like chomping at the bit to replay GTA 4? I don't know.
I mean,
we'll have to see.
I think so, because I never played GTA 4. because by the time I sort of got back into the whole GTA landscape, it was already very aged, right? So I might be interested in picking it up. If it's anything like GTA 5, they're probably just going to launch it for free for people who have it, right? Because I got the update, the definitive edition, literally just given to me.
I don't think
because
so.
I had GTA 5.
I think they'll charge you for this because GTA 4 was an extremely popular game, even on Steam. So I would imagine that anybody who wants I mean, anybody who would probably get into it already owns the original. So that I think they'll likely want to charge for it. They'll probably do it like a definitive edition if they're doing like a remaster of it. That would be what I would expect.
So
But I could be wrong. I don't know, because this is all one rumor. I'm just thinking it off the top of my head what would make sense.
So I quickly did a search here on our previous topic, just to highlight it, right? So you have studies that show the decrease in work from home. You have the study of the University of Chicago that studied over 10,000 IT professionals at an Indian technology company, found productivity fell by 18 to 19% during work from home period. Output slightly declined despite increased working hours. And the key reasons included higher communication costs, increased time in meetings, and reduced uninterrupted work hours. And then you have, and employees networked less and had fewer one-on-one supervisor meetings, impacting collaboration and coordination. Smaller teams showed less productivity decline, suggesting coordination issues were more pronounced in larger groups. So that's the one you have there. Then you have another work from home research working paper from Stanford in 2023, where it showed a 10 to 20% productivity decrease in fully remote workers compared to in-office workers. Challenges included communication difficulties, coordination issues, and self-motivation barriers. You have a Japanese worker survey from Morikawa, 2020 to 2021, that found that work from home productivity was 60 to 70% of in-office productivity. Then you have Farouk and Sultana in 2021, also showing that it had a decline.
I mean, if you're searching for studies that are going to show that it is a bad thing, you're going to find studies that are going to show that it is a bad thing.
I just asked
it. Search for ones.
No. I asked it to just show me the studies for worker production, work from home, because now it gives the ones that show that it was increased or neutral, right? So another Stanford study in 2015 had a randomized trial at a Chinese travel agency and found that 13% productivity increase for call center workers. You had the Great Place of Work survey in 2020 that found that 800,000 employees found productivity remained stable or increased during work from home. Hybrid work models, where people spend some time at the office but also go home, found that there was no productivity loss at all. Barreto et al. Estimated that work from home could boost US productivity, but that was an estimation. Ultimately, what they find in most of these studies is it highly depends on the kind of job you do. If you do a job where coordination and creativity, so the ability to brainstorm, is super important, work from home is massively unsuccessful because you don't have those random interactions in the office where maybe you're going to your friend's office and you go, man, I'm struggling with this one model that I just can't figure out. And your friend goes, have you tried this thing? Because you're isolated from that. You know, you're not going to phone your friend because that's sort of an extra barrier. Whereas at the office, you'll just have these interactions anyways. Where if it's like a call center,
Discord exists.
Yeah, but the problem with Discord would once again be that there seems to be a barrier. Because remember, once I call you, it's now official, right? It's not just me going down to grab a coffee and I see you sitting at the table, and as we sit and chat, I go, man, I'm struggling with this thing. So they are finding that some jobs, not impacted at all, can work from home and it doesn't really affect it at all. But there are jobs that it just doesn't work. And from just the quick reading,
and there are jobs where it is better.
Well, yeah, either better
that's the
or
point
neutral,
that I was making.
Right?
So it's not always a bad thing.
No,
it's not always a bad thing. Sometimes it can be a good thing.
Yeah,
yes.
But from at least what they list here as the industries that seem to struggle most, I would say game companies would struggle most for work from home because it is such a highly creative environment where oftentimes having those people just around you in your immediate vicinity is a giant boost, to your creativity. to the ability for you to create, whereas work from home would probably make that much, much harder. So yeah, I would just say there might be some method to the madness of people calling people home that we might not be aware of, because the studies do seem to present mixed results based on the job, right? That is at play. But okay, so on to the GTA 4 stuff. Do you think it's a cash grab?
GTA 4? Absolutely.
The remaster.
I mean, you said it in the reason as to why they're doing it. They're not doing it because they want to. They're doing it because, like, oh, we have people that have nothing to do. We got to put these people to work. And our game was delayed, so we don't have anything to present for the current fiscal year. So therefore, we need to do something. Now, the thing is, could it still be a good thing? Yeah, it could still be a good thing if there's enough people out there that haven't played GTA 4 and they're like, oh, I've never actually gotten around to playing it. Maybe I'll play it now. Yeah. It can be a good thing, but it is most definitely on its face. It seems like, yeah, it is going to be a cash grab because they need something to put out there.
I wonder, because at the same time, I mean, technically speaking,
again, this is a rumor, so we don't know if it's even happening.
Yeah, but technically speaking, all games would be a cash grab, right? Because they're making the game in order to try and sell it. I think it's good. When did GTA 4 release? Do you know?
It was a while ago. I don't remember the actual year, but I can look it up. GTA 4.
I'm looking at it now. 2008.
2008.
Yeah. 2008.
That was a hot
right?
minute.
So
that was before Dark Souls, bro.
Yeah. I feel like I don't mind remasters of these kinds of
I don't mind it.
Right?
I don't mind it at all.
No.
I think that's fine.
Yeah, but for me, it's just it is a cash grab in the firmest idea, right? Or in the firmest sort of space of the word, because they're just doing it to make money, right? I get what you're saying.
I'm not against it.
No. I get what you mean. I just mean for people who might be sort of going, it's just the cash grab. Yeah, but this game wouldn't really run well on modern hardware. If you had a modern PC, a 2008 game is not going to do well.
I don't know if it does or if it doesn't. I haven't played it in a long while.
My experience with games sort of prior 2014,
I mean, I'll tell you what. If you have a 50
bad.
series, if you have a 50 series card and that game is running 32 bits PhysX, yeah, you're fucked. You ain't doing that.
Yeah.
It's going to run like ass. Well, congratulations. NVIDIA played you again.
Yeah, but it's oftentimes not just that, right? It's oftentimes, like, for example, I spoke about this before, Dragon Age Origins. Because of how it was built and how it was optimized, it only works on single-core CPUs. So nowadays, with cores being 12 or 24, it's like the game crashes because the other cores are trying to run some of the game. And the game's going, too many, close the door.
Too many cores.
You guys are abusing me right now. I feel unsafe. I'm just going to close this door.
Less cores.
Yeah. So you have to go and turn off all of your cores just so you can play the game and then turn it back on once you're done. It's a mess. And I would assume that GTA 4 is probably in the same vein. So doing an update on it, probably not the worst idea in the world. Speaking of that, here is something that I do actually want to get, not just your opinion on Rurikon, but all of the viewers' opinion. We all saw the cinematic for GTA 6, right? And
the trailer, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah, the trailer. And the trailer is a mix. It's all in-game, right? But it's a mixture of gameplay as well as cinematics from the game. And there's people who sort of highlighted the incredible detail. Like the beer itself has these gas bubbles that come out of the beer. And
I saw one of the former Rockstar artists or whatever was reacting to it, and bro was just like, holy crap, this is insane. Look at the level of detail. This is all in game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My question is, and this is for all of you, not just for Rurikon, although Rurikon will answer in the video. Is it necessary?
No. There, that's it. No, it's not necessary.
Yeah.
It's like,
I saw.
I mean, this is something that I've talked about a million times over.
Yeah.
How this is one of the reasons why budgets absolutely balloon.
$1 billion, by the way. We now have the official number. $1 billion.
So it's not surprising, and it is usually stuff that it is not that important. Like, does it really matter that there's there's gas bubbles on beer? It's like, bro, you're going to look at that beer bottle once. It's going to wow you for its graphical fidelity for an entirety of 30 seconds. Okay? That's how long that wow effect is going to last. And after that, the only thing that's going to be bothering you is whenever the game dips below 50 FPS because your little gas is a bottle in your beer. Okay, that is where the real problem is.
Yeah.
Like, people are willing, and the funny thing is, there are gamers that actually think that this is a good thing. They're like, oh man, look at the fidelity of these visuals is fucking insane. And then it's like, you want to know what's important? The important thing is that the game is running 60 FPS or higher. That is more important than the amount of bubbles on the fucking beer.
Yeah.
That's the important thing. And the same thing with the curly hair and whatever, that she was waving her hair around and all of that stuff. That's all very impressive, phenomenal. But to me, it's does it run at 60 FPS? It's like that Patrick Bateman moment where he goes and he's just like, okay, let's see Barry Allen's card or whatever the fuck it was, right?
Yeah.
Let's see Dave Allen's card. And it's to me, it's okay, let's see the FPS. And then I can tell you exactly how I feel about the visual fidelity that you're putting on screen.
Yeah.
Listen, the beers in Uncharted 4, I don't remember if it was Uncharted 4 or Uncharted 2. I'm probably thinking of Uncharted 2. But I remember looking at the beers in Uncharted 2 and thinking to myself, man, that totally doesn't look realistic at all. Because the rest of the game looked so good in comparison with the prop that they used for the beer.
Yeah.
And I thought about that for an entirety of about 5 seconds. And then I was like, damn, this game's fucking badass.
Yeah.
That's all it mattered. It didn't matter. It mattered for 5 seconds when I looked at the beer the first time and I was like, that prop, it looks a little bit out of place. And that was it.
Yeah.
5 seconds. That's how long it lasted. So it's the fact that you're investing all of this, the beer bubbles. This I don't give a fuck. This means zero, less than zero to me.
It's sort of like Gabe Newell had this great quote. Someone said it on X. Where's the fun? That's the question he asks with games. Does this make the game more fun? Or are we at a point? Now, I get Rockstar's whole thing with GTA and Red Dead Redemption is to continuously push technology to its absolute limits. But at some point, you do have to ask yourself, is this actively adding to the fun of this game? Right? Am I having more fun in the game because the beer bubbles are there? Because to me, it's the same argument as ray tracing. Oh, I can see the shadows of the buildings I'm not looking at. Who gives a shit? Is there some gameplay element to the shadows that I'm not aware of? I'm not spending that much time looking at shadows in my game.
Here's what I'll tell you, and this is going to be something that is going to get the podcast canceled right now. Okay?
Oh, here we go. It was a good run.
Back in the PlayStation 4 days, okay, I remember getting a bunch of PlayStation 4 games, and I would do videos on them and talk about all that stuff. It was like, oh, look at this game on PS4. It looks phenomenal. And it's most of the games were running at 30 FPS. Famously, Bloodborne, one of the most beloved games of PlayStation 4, hasn't even come to PC yet. Still runs at 60 FPS. At 30 FPS, I mean. Even on PlayStation 5 hardware.
Yeah.
30 FPS. That's as much as you're going to get. Now, there's a hacked version or whatever that somebody did on the PS4 Pro and can run 60 FPS, but whatever. Officially, 30 FPS.
Yeah.
During that same time period, guess what? Mario Kart, that was running at 60. On the Wii U.
Yeah.
You know, that very unsuccessful, trashy console that everybody fucking loves hating on was running Mario Kart at 60 fucking FPS.
Yeah.
And the new Mario games were running at 60 FPS. Switch, same thing. Got your PlayStation 5, all this shit. Super Mario Odyssey, 60 FPS.
Yeah.
It's does it really matter? All this fucking visual fidelity, all of this shit. Nintendo comes out with their games that everybody likes to make fun of. Guess what? A lot of them ran at 60. Now, Breath of the Wild, not so much. But, not everything's going to run
take the W's where you... Right.
You take the W's where you can. A lot of games ran at 60 on their vastly inferior hardware. Vastly inferior. Because they looked at it and like, it's important that this game runs at a high frame rate. And that is more important than you can identify the zits on Mario's ass.
Yeah. I would argue...
So beer bubbles? I don't give a fuck about no beer bubbles or curly hair or all that bullshit. How fast does it run?
Yeah.
Okay? And is it just one big cinematic showpiece or is there actual gameplay? That's the stuff that matters.
Now, we're not suggesting here that GTA 6 can have bad gameplay or isn't going to have great gameplay.
Yeah, no, that's not the point.
No, the thing is, this took a significant amount of development time to make sure that the beer bubbles are there and the muscles of the guys are absolutely on point, working the way that it's supposed to, like a real person's muscles. Instead, the game could probably have been 3 times as jam-packed with content if we weren't focused on that stuff. Now, that's not to say that the content that will be there isn't going to be insane, right? And isn't going to be super good. It's purely to say, at what point have we almost entirely lost the plot, right? And I would argue...
I think we've lost the plot a while back.
Well, yeah, dude. I would argue when your game has a horse's bollocks literally contracting in the snow, we've gone too far, right? Like, now we're dealing with levels of realism that... And the reason I say this, the physics and the engine development required in order to make the balls contract in the snow, is it worth the pleasure derived from seeing your horse's bollocks contract in the snow?
Look,
right? Like,
I remember I looked at it exactly once.
I didn't even notice it in my entire
and so I looked at it and I was like, oh, look, it does shrink. And then I never looked at it again, ever.
If people didn't tell me that it was happening, that was funny. I wouldn't even know.
For about 10 seconds. It was 10 seconds of fun watching those testicles shrink.
But be honest, like, okay. Did you notice it by yourself or did you see someone point it out and then you saw it?
I purposefully went looking for it because I had heard that was the case.
Yeah.
So I purposely angled the camera down to look at the horse testicles to see them shrink in the snow.
I didn't see that was what's going on. It was only after I finished the whole game that I saw the post of people saying, oh, your horse's bollocks shrink in the snow. And I was like, it does? Cool, I guess. I finished the game now, so it's fine, you know?
Who cares?
I never even saw it because I wasn't looking at my horse's penis the whole time to see, is it getting smaller? Is it getting larger? How realistic is this game? It just feels like
it is a strange place that we're in when it comes to that, because I think that detail is important, but I think art style is vastly more important. Like, to me, for instance, the sense of scale of Xenoblade Chronicles X wowed me much longer throughout the whole game, just the sense of scale. And it's just the size of things, the size of the world that they built, the size of the structures in that world. All of that was more impressive than a horse's testicles shrinking. And it probably costed them less to do that because they just have a solid art style rather than sheer visual fidelity.
But dude, I 100% agree with you. I think there's plenty of games out there that aren't realistic, but they work, right? I'm having fun playing it. I'm not playing the game and going, well, you know, if only this person looked more like an actual real life human. I don't give a shit. I'm having fun playing my game. Like, I couldn't care less what they actually look like. You know, playing Doom right now, and I saw people saying the graphics looks like ass, and I'm like, it does. Looks fine to me.
Do. Go into the game, turn off the film grain. Because it's another one of those games that turns on film grain by default. Why you do this in 2025? Why we even still have film grain in video games?
Blur, bro.
It's like
blur, film grain, all of that shit.
Yeah,
it's disgusting to me, dude. Like,
I'm just like, bro, why? Just why? Film grain specifically is the one that annoys me because it almost feels like for a lot of people, they're like, oh man, film grain just reminds me of the old movies. Yeah, guess why old movies had film grain? It was an imperfection that they couldn't fucking fix.
Yeah, it wasn't on purpose.
The people working on those movies, they weren't like, oh, let me fucking put pubic hairs all over this fucking film.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's an imperfection of the processes we're using right now.
Yeah.
If we could not have film grain, we would not have it.
That'd be great.
Like people in the past are looking at people in the future digitally fucking up imagery, and they're going like, what are you doing? What exactly? Why are you adding noise to this perfectly clean image? And they're like, oh, it's to recreate film grain like the olden days. And the guys are like, we didn't have a choice back then, you fucking moron.
Yeah, we would have loved to not have that.
Did your mother drop you in your head when you were a baby?
Dude, it's like, I don't even know.
It's fucking insane.
Maybe someone.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
I get it if you're doing like a flashback sequence. I get it.
Yeah.
I can accept that. Yeah, sure, fine. You're doing a flashback sequence. You want to add some film grain. Totally fine.
Yeah.
But a filter for the whole fucking game?
And
we had this game that looked great, and we just decided we'd make it look worse.
Yeah.
For no reason. It's art.
Well,
it's artistic. It's more cinematic.
Even with the film grain, because I didn't turn it off, the game looks fine to me because the art style fits. Right? It is what I want a Doom game to look like. Now, for me, I would love to know if there's someone in the comment section that can actually tell me, why is Blur? First, why was Blur a thing? Because my mind is telling me it might have had something to do with hardware. Because because what else? What else could it be? Why would you have Blur in a video?
It's to give you the illusion of momentum.
No, motion blur.
It's like the anime. Yeah. It's supposed to give you the illusion of momentum when you're turning the camera around. It's just some people do it somewhat reasonably well. Other people do it terribly. It's just that. Like some people know how to do it. Some people don't know how to do it. I actually do have motion blur on, but it's on low. And I barely even notice it. So I'm like, whatever, I don't care. But ultimately, I usually turn it off. Yeah, usually I just turn it off. But lately I've been like, because I've heard from people that in some games it actually adds. So I'm like, okay, I'll have it on low and see if it bothers me. And in the case of Doom, it didn't bother me. So I'm like, whatever, I don't care. I let it.
Turns out there's a couple of reasons. One is what you just said there. Another is
the
mimics
illusion of momentum.
It mimics realism because our eyes will blur things normally, but I don't need the game to extra
like this,
blur it.
You'll blur it.
Yeah. You know, I don't want to play like that, like someone that's visually impaired while I play my video game. But then also
you have glasses. You are visually impaired. You're the guy.
Barely.
Me too.
But then there is also apparently it was used originally for performance optimization because the motion blur reduces computational load. So if the object is moving fast, by blurring it, it doesn't have to compute the object. So that was sort of the thing.
You can probably load lower res textures, I would imagine, when you're blurring it.
But I do feel like in modern day gaming with modern day rigs, it's just so annoying to have to go into every single game and turn motion blur off. Sorry, this is like first world problems. Peak first world problems
with fucking film grain.
But it annoys me so much.
Which one is the worst? It's actually RTX, which I've heard. I'm not sure. I've heard that Doom Dark Ages has built-in RTX. It's like it's baked in. You can't turn it off. Now, I don't know. This is something that I've heard. I haven't fiddled with it too much. But apparently it is RTX and it is turned on by default. My 7900 XTX is handling it fine on almost max settings. Pretty much, I think everything maxed with... obviously using upscaling because that's just our reality nowadays. I don't even try running games without upscaling anymore. I've given up. Whatever. Upscale the shit. Don't fucking care. But yeah, in terms of the visual fidelity, I thought that Doom looked fine. I think its animations are friggin' phenomenal. I've been playing a ton of it actually.
Dude, it's fun. It's just fun. It's just get in there, listen to some rock music, and kill some demons. Let's go.
See, but I have quite a few criticisms of it now. Naturally, I wanted to do a first impressions video while it's still relevant. So I played the game for like, I don't know, friggin' 4 hours or something like that to make my video. And since then, I've put in quite a few more hours, and I found a couple of flaws that I'm actually not the biggest fan of. So number one is the music is nowhere close to 2016's Doom.
I've listened to the soundtrack for 2016 Doom, and I must agree with you. The music is heavy metal.
It's not. It's the thing is, it's not even about listening to the soundtrack. It's about when they play the soundtrack, and the mixing of the soundtrack is just nowhere close to on par. So like on Doom 2016, you'd be, it'd be giving you like this slow down, just because you're just moving along, not really doing much. Yeah. And then the action starts, goes like, just like completely blasting off.
Yeah, so the music is really getting you into the
it's getting you into it. And it's like, in this one, it's just fucking all over the place. Like sometimes I'll be in the most frantic action scene, and the music's just like, just like super chill.
All right. Yeah.
And then other times, I'm right before an encounter, the music pops off crazy, and literally nothing is happening on screen. This happened so many times.
Yeah.
And it's just the music overall is not even nowhere close to the quality of Mick Gordon's work. It's just not. It is what it is. I don't want to like shit on the new guys or whatever, but it's the fact of life.
Yeah.
Okay. Doom 2016 was fucking phenomenal in terms of audio, and this one is not. Now, in terms of audio, in terms of soundtrack, in terms of audio, I think that this is fine. The sound great. But that was like my first complaint. Second complaint is that a lot of the levels, for some strange reason, they're super large, and they have like these big sections of exploration where you're meant to like be finding secrets and doing all of this stuff. And to me, it's like, Doom is at its best when I'm murdering demons nonstop.
Yeah.
Doom is literally at its worst when I'm doing bullshit open world content. Like because it's like I'm in the stream, I'm in the zone, everybody's enjoying it, everybody having a good time. I'm in there throwing my shield, doing crazy shit, and then it stops, and it's like you hit a brick wall, and it's like, okay, now let me open up the map and figure out where they hid this secret, and like look at the thing and figure out how am I supposed to get there and do all of that bullshit. And it's like you had this even in the original Doom, like the one from the 90s. You had things like this, but you didn't have as much of it. And these levels are fucking massive. Like some of the levels are huge, and you're just like running all over the place. Oh, I found the purple key. Now I got to backtrack and find the 3 purple doors.
I will say what definitely. So first, it also apparently had something to do motion blur now with 30 FPS. When games were capped at 30 FPS, motion blur was essential because if you're turning fast, you'd be able to see the 30 FPS. But anyways, I will say the thing that I have sort of a problem with Doom is the exploration isn't even really exploration, because once you open the map, it tells you exactly where the secret is. If you ran past it, it will show on your map. But then you have to backtrack to it, because a lot of the time the door is only opened once you get the key for the door. So even finding the secret is not really finding the secret, because you first need the key in order to find the secret. But when you find the key, it takes you a completely different route to your actual objective. And now you get to the end of the game and you're like, oh shit, okay, there's a gate all the way back there that I did not open. Let me go back and open that gate, or replay the level just so that I can get that gate too. And it's honestly a little annoying. So I would definitely agree with that gripe. The music gripe, all I'll say about the music, because I didn't play Doom. The last time I played Doom was when it was almost 8-bit graphics. You know, like the old school Doom,
in the 90s.
Yeah, during Duke Nukem era, where you had Duke Nukem and you had Doom. Those were your two.
That was actually, I think that was actually either 16 or 32 bits. It was not 8 bits.
Yeah, no, but
it's probably 16.
Yeah, I'm just sort of referring to that kind of graphic style, right? The more blocky kind of graphic style. That's the last time I played Doom. So just to give you guys an update on that. What I do know is I've always been told Doom has one of the most legendary soundtracks ever. Like, the soundtracks is insane.
Yeah, Doom 2016.
I cannot tell you any of the songs that I've heard thus far. Like, none of them stand out to me. If you played the songs to me right now, I would not recognize that they come from Doom. It should be like, oh.
Yeah, it's a little bit more generic, which kind of sucks. But it's like, in terms of gameplay, though, I will say, and this is where I'm super biased because I love shields. I'm big into shields. So you make a shooter, and one of its core mechanics is around a shield and parrying and throwing the shield.
Yeah.
I'm having the time of my life, bro. I'm just like going in there. I'm playing at, it's not max difficulty, because max difficulty, what it does is it limits like your respawns and shit like that. And I don't want that, because it's kind of like a hardcore run if you go to the actual max difficulty.
Okay.
The difficulty before it's same thing. So I'm in the nightmare difficulty. So that's like out of their pre-built difficulty levels, because you can customize everything with the difficulty.
It's actually quite nice.
But out of
you can customize as much as
I don't like that.
I
don't like that at all. I like one difficulty and that's it. But
yeah, but you're a Souls-like Andy, so of course.
Yeah, but Nightmare, what it does is Nightmare is the maximum of difficulties in terms of like monster damage, monster
before you
health,
get to hardcore plays.
Before you get the hardcore play. So it's like the actual difficulty of the monsters is the same between Nightmare and the last one. So technically max difficulty, and it's a ton of fun. It's a ton of fun just like eating the shield around, seeing monsters with the shield, doing like all types of crazy combos. It's a ton of fun. I enjoy doing that, using the melee, all of that. I've been having a blast playing it. It's been the game that I've played the most this week.
I started playing the game the same way I play every game, on the easiest difficulty, because I just want to see the story. But I'm going to turn up the difficulty, because the easiest difficulty is just, it takes away from what's the most fun, and that's the fighting. Because you basically one-shot everything.
Just dies.
There's stuff that's supposed to be a little scary to fight. Like, every area has like a not a boss, but like a kind
champion.
of champion kind of thing.
Yeah.
They fall over with like 6 shots, right? You do one shield slam and they go purple, and then you just knock the shit out of them. So obviously, I'll turn up the difficulty on that, which is rare, because most of the time when games have difficulty sliders, I go for the easiest because I just want to see the story. And most games, their difficulty sliders is literally just, you take more damage, they take less damage, there you go. And the damage isn't good enough for me to say, yeah, sure, I would love to spend 10 minutes shooting this boss. Whereas here, I feel like the action is good enough that I do want to spend a little bit more time parrying some of the green attacks and slamming into them, because, bro, I will say this, the testosterone hit when you slam your shield into something, it's so satisfying. It's just like, you feel that power, and then you jump off of places. So I ran into this place, and I see all these demons below me, and I sprint and I jump, and your guy lands, and it's like, shockwave, just,
and everything explodes. Yeah.
So good, like so good.
Wait until you try doing like a melee execution from a jump attack. Where your guy will actually just pick up the shield and saw a demon in half.
Wow!
With the shield, like,
wow, yeah.
First time I saw it, I was like, "What the fuck? That's so good."
It is. It's a ton of fun.
I was like always jumping, trying to do the melee executions after that. But
no, it's such a fun game.
It is very fun.
Hopefully I
think they've done a good job.
Maybe they do a patch where they sync the music a bit better, because the music isn't bad. I think you might be.
It's not.
I think you might be on point with. The problem is most likely a bit of mixing, where because the music doesn't necessarily fit what you're doing, it kind of loses value.
I think they've already tweaked it a little bit, because they did like a patch yesterday, and I noticed on stream, I was like, seems like the music's a little bit more on point. It's still nowhere close to 2016, but still a little bit more on point. So, they're getting there. But one of the things that I will call them out for is the absolute fucking scumbag behavior that everybody is doing nowadays, which is like, the premium version, you could play it 3 days early.
Yeah, I didn't buy the premium.
It's like, bro.
I
did for content, but yeah.
No.
Yeah, I fucking hate it.
I refuse to support anyone that does late access to video games. I refuse to call it early access
because that's what it is. It's not early access. I said the same thing. No. It's late. It's it's the actual release date was the 13th or whatever it was whenever this fucking thing came out.
Yeah,
that's the actual release date.
Yeah,
and the other one is just for people that aren't willing to shell out. So it's the late.
Yeah,
release,
I call it the rich person release and the poor person release. Right?
That's exactly what it is.
But the game is, and I'm not calling everyone poor that didn't buy the premium edition, but I am saying
I'm calling them smart. Don't be fucking stupid like me.
For me,
but I'm doing it for content.
Yeah,
so.
For me, the biggest problem is early access is such a misnomer. Because if the game is publicly available to be played, that's the release date. Because you can play the game now. Like, it's a different story when you say there's early access for content creators. Because if you're not a content creator, you're not getting early access. And there's probably some value to that because content creators are the ones that do the reviews that tell people whether or not they should be playing the game. So in that sense, it kind of makes sense, right? Like,
and let me tell you something. My stance on this is that literally nobody should have early access. And this is the thing that a lot of people don't believe it when I say this, but this is my actual stance. Like, I think that nobody should have early access. Like, game releases one day for literally everyone. That means media outlets. That means influencers, YouTubers, whatever the fuck. Everybody has access to the game at the exact same time. That's the way that it should be. And so when people say, oh, so you're a hypocrite because you're getting early, it's like, yeah, I'm getting early access for some games. Guess why? Because fucking early access media is also getting it and other YouTubers are getting it too. I hate the game, but I'm going to play it. I hate the game in terms of like the whole game of early access and shit. Yeah, I don't like that at all. I fucking hate it.
Let me ask you.
But I'm going to do it. It is what it is.
Let me ask you, do you support NVIDIA not giving reviewers an early patch or early software update so that they can test the new 5060 and 5060 Ti? That the patch will only go live on launch day for them to be able to test it. So here's the problem. You now have a bunch of reviewers that's supposed to be telling the public whether or not they're going to be wasting their money that can only inform the public on the day that the public can actually buy the content. Which, to me, where I would disagree with you is this will allow game companies to basically be as scumbag as they want and catch a lot of people because no one can tell them that they're scumbag stuff. Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Why the fuck do you need to buy a video game day one?
Need is a different word, right? You don't need to. But
there it is.
Yeah, but I would say
you don't need to.
Yeah, but
no, end of discussion. You don't have to do it.
No. It's not the end of the discussion because
it is.
What you're effectively arguing for, humans should stop humaning, right? They should not be humans. They should be something else.
I'm telling people they should be fucking smart.
No, but the thing is...
That's what they should be.
Yeah, but a lot of people are smart. A lot of people wait for their favorite game reviewer to first review the game.
Exactly.
In order to know
that's
if they like the game.
What you should do.
No, but you're like FOMO is a thing because humans are human, right?
Yeah, I know.
They're not gonna not play the game the second it comes out. They're gonna want to play the game because all of their friends might be playing it. They don't want to miss out on missing that boat.
Akalon.
Yeah.
Guess what?
Yeah.
If you leave a baby alone in a room long enough, it is likely that baby will end up eating its own feces. And guess what we do? We teach babies not to do that. We teach babies not to do stupid shit. Yeah. People should be able to learn at a certain point. And a lot of people have learned. A lot of people don't buy video games day one.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, but
So to me, it's like we could get rid of this whole early access shenanigans and people would eventually learn, hey, I shouldn't buy a video game before there's a review.
Yeah, but why I'm failing to see your argument is what you're effectively then arguing for is just an unforced early access. Because
what do you mean?
The only thing that will happen now is the game will launch on the 15th. People won't buy it immediately. They'll wait until the 16th or the 17th to get the reviews.
Exactly.
And then they'll buy it.
Yeah.
But then what's the difference between them going, hey, we're going to give YouTubers and content creators early access on the 12th
The difference
to review
let me
it
tell you what
so
the
that people
difference
can
is.
buy it on the 15th.
I know exactly what you're saying. The difference is, if you really want to, you can get it at the same time as everybody else. Whereas with the current system, you can't.
No, well, with the current system, you can. You just have to pay more.
No, you can't. No, you can't. No, you can't. Like, how are you going to get it? Like, say, for instance, new Monster Hunter game comes out tomorrow. How are you going to get access at the same time as me, for instance?
No, but okay, now you're talking about like what Monster Hunter. I'm just talking about early access, right? If you include that.
No,
but this is exactly what I'm telling you.
I'm saying early access for everything. Because that's my stance. Nobody should have early access to anything. Everybody, it's like, here's the date, and you can even give content creator codes. I think that's fine. But it's like, here's the date, here's your code, there you go. And you have access to it at the exact same time as Joe Schmo down the street.
Yeah, but the issue there is, firstly, you wouldn't give content creators codes then. Because why would you?
Why not?
The reason you're giving content creators
it still
codes,
costs money.
No. The reason you're giving content creators codes is because their reviews, if your game is good, is going to serve as marketing for your game when it finally goes live.
And that's the same reason why you would do it, because the content creator might not buy the game.
Yeah, but some content creators will buy the game, right? And content creators who literally make a living off of reviews will buy the game because they want to make videos on the game and tell people whether or not the game is good. I guess my biggest problem is I don't see the problem. Insofar as
I do.
I want my game to have the optimal amount of marketing. So I want YouTubers to be talking about my game and telling people my game is good. But then at the same time, it also serves a valuable consumer service insofar as consumers can walk into a game knowing full well what to expect. So before they even drop their money, they're fully aware, does this company do scumbag shop stuff? Does this company do scumbag gameplay stuff?
And
right? What's the game like?
And they can be aware 2 days after the game releases.
Yeah, but I don't see why. You know, that's the point. I don't see why. I don't see why anyone is hurt by getting a review the day before the game goes live versus getting the review 2 days later. Because if you do only give the review 2 days later, it does incentivize companies to increase their scumbaggery. You know, we've already seen it. Ubisoft did it with one of their Assassin's Creed games.
They're doing it regardless, like where they're putting the microtransactions after the review period ends.
And they got called out for it heavy, right? Which means, and a lot of these studios have now stopped.
And nothing changed.
No, but a lot of them stopped after the backlash of Assassin's Creed. I think it was Origins. Or, not Origins, Odyssey, where they did that. There was no cash shop, and then suddenly on launch day, cash shop, right? So everyone's reviews were already made, and then the cash shop is introduced. But they got called out so much for that.
They do that stuff.
Right? They got called out so much for that they stopped doing it. They now do the cash shop in the testing phase so that everyone can see it. I guess for me, it's just a case of I'd rather have consumers drop their money the moment that they know that it's going to be worth them dropping their money on this, rather than
and that's
incentivizing companies to be fully scumbag, and there's no transparency to the scumbaggery, right? No one can figure out that these guys have cut massive corners or whatever because no one can play the game before the game actually comes out, right?
And people would actually wait for reviews.
They won't, though.
This is a good thing.
They won't, though. Some people might, but most people
don't wait for. The people that don't are also not waiting for the reviews before the game comes out. They're pre-ordering it. So it's like, it's like, look, this is something that to me it is just something that I don't agree with, because I know that if I am a consumer, I'm like, well, I want to be able to play the game at the same time as everybody else.
Yeah.
Why are some people getting it early and some people getting it late? And that doesn't seem very fair. And, you know, maybe it's a selfish way of looking at it and all of that stuff. I completely agree. But to me, I think that your average Joe should have the same opportunity of reviewing a video game as somebody that works at IGM. That's the way that I look at it.
Yeah, but I think in this case, right, it is sort of this thing of everyone has to start somewhere, right? Now, Access Media, the IGN guys, they are going to start losing their access as people realize the reviews aren't worth shit. But every reviewer had to start somewhere.
When
right?
exactly is this happening? Because it's been how many years now?
Yeah, but I mean, look at the last 2 years. In the last 2 years, the mainstream access media has not gotten a single review right. They keep glazing games and then they fail. They keep giving 8 out of 10s and then they fail. So at some point...
That is a gross exaggeration. Not got a single review right. That's a gross exaggeration.
I'd say there's... I mean, dude, okay, they've had way more failures than what they've had W's. It's almost as if they now get them...
I don't know because I don't follow
right by accident.
Mainstream reviews. So.
Well, we can just look in the last few months, right? So we have Star Wars Outlaws being reviewed to high heavens, fails. Dragon Age the Veilguard reviewed to high heavens, fails. Assassin's Creed Shadows reviewed to high heavens, fails. Even Dustborn reviewed 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10, fails. Right? So these guys are, when they hit it right, it's by accident almost. So there is going to get a point where the games media or the games industry is going to realize, wait, these guys' reviews aren't worth the paper that it's written on, because the consumers will eventually just lose trust in what these reviewers are saying, because they keep reviewing games that consumers don't actually want to play and saying that they're brilliant. But when you're a normal YouTuber, I don't get any keys sent to me, right? So I'm speaking as someone who no company knows who I am, and they don't send me keys. And that's right. I have not made a name for myself in the industry to the point where they would find it useful to send me keys. Now, if I continue to do reviews on games, and yes, the reviews are late, but if I continue to do that, I might eventually build up an audience strong enough to where now I can go to companies and be like, hey, send me a key. I guarantee at least 20,000 views on my review or whatever. So there's potential, at least for you to get some gamers from it, right? But I have to pay my dues, just like everyone else in this world. You pay your dues. You have to go through it. So I'm not always in favor of this. Every Joe Schmo should be able to get a key and do their own review if they so choose.
I didn't say they should be able to get a key and get their own review. I said they should be able to buy the game.
Yeah, but they are able to buy the game. They're just not able to get
buy the game at the same time as IGN gets their review code.
Yeah, but that again, your suggestion has upsides and downsides. On the one, everyone's
just
equal,
like
and
your
everyone...
suggestion has upsides and downsides.
No, obviously, yeah. But my point is,
I value my upsides more.
I don't, and I would be interested to hear.
That's fair.
I would
That's
be
fair.
Yeah, of course. I would be interested to hear what the viewers think of this, because for me, I think there's value in watching a review. The amount of times that reviews have saved me from wasting my money is insane. The amount of times I've seen a cinematic for a game and I go, wow, this looks so good. And then I watch a couple of reviews and I go, wait, so really the only thing that looks good is the cinematic? And maybe I can't remember what the game was, but the guy actually says it. The first 4 hours of the game is fun and then it goes mindless. And it becomes such a slog and a bore to get through it. And I immediately realized, okay, wait, if I bought this game, I would have spent, I think it was like $40. And I would have played just enough time that I can't refund the bloody thing. And then I would have hated the game. But because there was a review for the game, I now knew that, right? And I could go into that knowing full well. So, for example, when the next From Software game comes out, I will be waiting for your review on From Software. Because I trust you, when it comes to From Software games, to tell me whether or not this is even worth me spending my money on, right? And if you tell me, dude, there's nothing worth here, no point in playing this, I've saved some money and I can buy something else. I don't have to waste my own time trying to figure it out.
It's like you keep trying to explain it to me. It's like I understand why you have your point.
Yeah, well, I'm not just explaining it to you. I'm also explaining it to chat, right? Because I want chat to tell me, how do they feel about it? Right? Do they think everyone should just, know reviews beforehand? Or do they think, no, it's all right to have reviews beforehand?
And it's something that I need also people to understand that what I usually want does not necessarily mean that it is what is best for the industry. It's just there are certain positions that I have that I'm like, yeah, I think it should work like this. and I think that this is the proper way of doing things. The thing is, it's never going to happen because there's no putting the toothpaste back in the tube of like access media and stuff like that. That's never going to change. But that doesn't change the way that I feel about it, which is I think it would be much more interesting because all of these reviews, another thing that they also do that is often not even discussed about is they take away joy of discovery. Like oftentimes they reveal too much content.
Yeah.
And this is one of the reasons why, because a lot of times people will be like, I see that there was a very strict embargo in this video game. That means the company is dicking me over. And it's like, no. A lot of the times, the reason why there are very strict embargoes in a lot of video games is because way too many people are way too fucking comfortable spoiling the shit out of video games.
Yeah.
Okay? That's why.
No, but I agree with you there. But my opinion actually goes further than yours, way further. Insofar as I actually think reviewers should get copies of the game way earlier than what they even get now, mostly. And the embargo on reviews should be a week ahead of the actual launch of the game. And that early access pre-ordering must be tied to the embargo of reviews. So once reviews go live, now you can pre-order the game. That's my perfect scenario, right? And the reason for it is you also get a bunch of companies that are super scumbag where they'll send the keys out like 24 hours before the game launches or maybe 48 hours before the game launches. But then there'll be like reviews embargo lifts day off, which means you don't have enough time to actually test the game and make sure that it's a good game. But then also they're hoping that they get a couple of hundreds of thousands of people through before those reviews drop. And reveal
You should be really happy about the way that Nintendo used to work back in the day because for a while I had like pretty much the same level of access as IGN to Nintendo games. And let me tell you, they used to send out codes like at least a month in advance.
Yeah.
Like that would be what I would think is expected for most media outlets for most video games. They receive games 1 month in advance. And now get this, with Nintendo, it was actually really interesting because they would usually let you stream 1 hour of the game 1 week before the game comes out. So before the game comes out 1 week, you can stream 1 hour of gameplay.
Yeah.
Which I was always super shocked. I was like, wait, I can stream 1 hour of gameplay?
Yeah.
1 week before the game comes out? That's fucking crazy. And then you would usually have your review embargo, which would lift like, I don't know, 4 days, 3 days, depends on the game. But yeah, that used to be the level of access to Nintendo titles. But then people started leaking the shit out of it, abusing that. So they would just leak the whole fucking video game.
Yeah, but remember, this is where...
And Nintendo's like, fuck them influencers, these fucking guys, these goddamn YouTubers.
But I think this is where you once that happens, because I agree with you, I think there should also be stricter controls around what is reviewed, right? A reviewer's job is to tell people whether or not this game is worth buying.
Without spoiling.
Right?
Without spoiling.
Yeah, it's not their job to tell people where to get every secret in the game, right? Or where all of the nooks and crannies and what the story is. That's not their job. Their job is to be objective in what the gameplay is, what the gameplay is like, and then if the story is good or not. Not to tell them, well, when this character's mother dies, it really breaks the story. It's like, oh, wow, thank you. I would have preferred to see that myself. Thank you.
That's why companies are very strict with embargoes, is actually because way too many publications in the past have been very, very spoiler heavy on a lot of their coverage.
But this is, again, where I think you can have the best of both worlds, right? Where, but my whole thing is actually that I'm against early access. Not early access, early pre-sale.
Yeah, that one I definitely
I
think it's absolutely fucking scumbaggery. And I was very shocked. This was something that opened my eyes back in, I don't remember when Diablo 4 came out, but when that came out, that is when I was like, oh wow, really? Because I made a video where I was being very like, fucking, this is bullshit.
Yeah.
Like this fucking I think it was 5 days for Diablo, whatever the fuck it was.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is bullshit. This is hot garbage. This practice should not be supported by anyone. And I got raked over the coals. Like, people were like, shut the fuck up, you fucking poor bastard. I was like, Me, bro, you need to understand. I make more money from this.
Yeah.
Because, like,
obviously,
I will stream it early.
Yeah.
And all of you guys will want to come and watch to see whether or not you want to buy it. Like, you need to understand, for content creators, this is a great thing.
Oh, yeah.
This is phenomenal. It's like I'm arguing against myself. I don't understand.
Yeah. No, I fully respect where you're coming from.
Absolutely.
I guess for me, my biggest focus is just pre-order. I hate pre-order.
Yeah,
and that's why I think review embargo should be tied directly to pre-order. Once the review embargo lifts, that's when the pre-orders lift, right? So that people, before they even pre-order your bloody game, can go watch a review and be like, not for me, thank you. I think I'm not going to go this way. Because there's so many companies that use pre-orders as a way to get more loans, as a way to get more shareholding and all the rest of it.
Ubisoft is going to be using that for a long time.
Oh, yeah. You know, so my thing...
Financed by the bank of Ubisoft fans.
Yeah.
That's the bank. That's their finance.
I hate pre-orders. It is so scumbag because I understand why the gaming industry is doing it. Because it allows people to purchase the game ahead of time and maybe they can save up a little every single month and then buy the game. Or maybe they're having a great month this month, so now they can buy the game. But maybe on launch, they won't have as much money. I understand all of that. I just hate pre-order. And I know why they're doing it. I know why pre-orders exist. It's to capitalize on hype, right? Because usually you'll get the big cinematic about 6 months before the game comes out. And if you put pre-orders at the same time as the big cinematic, people are already emotionally engaged. And on this emotional high, they go, let me buy. I'm definitely going to play it. Maybe 6 months later, you don't really want to... Dude, I've had this before. Where I've pre-ordered a game because I bought into the hype. And then the game launches and I'm like... I'm not really in the mood for this game now. So
I don't really pre-order games like at all. Yeah. I think the last game that I pre-ordered was probably Baldur's Gate 3, and I pre-ordered it literally. I think it was like 30 minutes before it launched, just so that I would get the pre-order bonuses. It's not really a pre-order. It's just like, I'm buying it now.
My pre-order
right before the promotion ends, I'm buying it.
My pre-order was with World of Warcraft, and we're talking probably 7 years ago at this point. That was the last time that I actually pre-ordered. No, I'm lying. The last time I pre-ordered a game was Cyberpunk 2077. And I did that because it's CD Projekt Red. I love CD Projekt Red. I love everything they put out. And I ended up loving Cyberpunk 2077. So I had no problems pre-ordering. But in general, I do what you do. If I know I'm going to be playing a game, I'll pre-order an hour before the game goes live. So you get all the pre-order bonus, but you didn't really pre-order. You didn't really
pre-order,
because you can only play it.
It was a technical pre-order, the best kind of pre-order.
The
technical one.
Because your download is going to take like 20 minutes anyway. So you're technically playing at the same time everyone else is playing. Just, you get some bonus shit that I never end up using, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't use skins in games. Like, I remember starting my Doom 3 or my Doom playthrough, and as I log in, they go, special Xbox Game Pass skin. I don't even know where to access that skin. So I'm just like playing standard skin. It is what it is.
I have the premium version of the game, and I'm also not using any skin. I'm like, whatever.
Like, I don't use skins. I don't even know where to get them. But anyways, that's it from us for today. It's been lovely. Myself and Uricon got into a bit of a debate here at the end. That wasn't on the docket. We weren't planned on having this.
I mean, half the goddamn show is not on the docket.
This is true.
Never is.
This is true. But please let us know in the comment section down below what you thought of the news stories that we discussed here. Remember, members, if there's anything specific that you would love to see from myself and Rurikon, maybe impromptu discussions with new games that launch, just like in half an hour talking about new games outside of the podcast, let us know, right? We'd love to do something extra for you guys. But then, yeah, thank you so much. Please remember to hit the like if you like, the dislike if you didn't. Rurikon, thank you so much for once again joining us. And as always, be good to each other, be kind to each other. And we will see all of you in the next one. Peace.